Test. Okay, that works. Alrighty. Gosh, it's been a while. Hey guys, what's going on? What's up, everybody? We've got a few things on the agenda for today. We are back. Yep. I'm going to open up my priority list. So I have a list of things to work on. I wouldn't mind just starting out today with some easy stuff. So we could pick on a few things here and do some easy things. And then we will talk about some bigger things to do. Like I want to get some suggestions for your guys' favorite encounter ideas, because we want to add just a couple new encounters. Maybe a couple new doctrines that you can get to. Probably more than a couple doctrines. It would be nice to add even 10 new ones. With things like encounters, I don't want to add I could add 2 or 3 new encounters, maybe even 2 or 3 new officer skills. But with doctrines, I kind of think I want to do a big push and see if we can get a few, like a good chunk of new ones, because it feels like I see the same ones every time. I also wouldn't mind going through the current doctrine list and debuffing some of them that are a little too powerful, and then buffing some that are ones that you just typically ignore, that just aren't very useful. Like the Carthaginian Spirit that lets you go across mountains is not too useful. But something that gives you 15% reload across 20 regiments, so all 20 regiments gain 15% reload, that's a bit extreme. I think that might be a little too much. So there's a few that are a little too powerful and some that are too weak, and then I just want to add some new ones, and I think that'd be nice. So for now, let's just knock out some really easy stuff. I think that'd be just a cool way to start. So something that I want to do is I noticed the jacket is actually wrong right there. And it's a very easy, small change to fix. And we'll just knock that one out. So first, let me see if I even saved this. I did save it. And all we need to do is zoom into the PSD. Probably hide the lighting. There, it's these soldiers. I'm going to hide everything up to those soldiers there. Grab that color. And just make a quick fix. I've been so lazy since I got back from the break. Has anyone else been lazy? I feel like I've been so damn lazy. I wonder why this color is not the same. Why does it look darker? You know what I mean? I wonder why that's the case. There must be there it is. It's like a shadow layer. So we want to just grab that exactly for what that is. There we go. That's also a color there. Actually, that's somebody's strap, so I think that's fine. So now we can kind of put all these layers back. And there we are. We've got it fixed. Yeah, I've been having a hard time getting back into things. I've been having a really hard time, honestly. We'll save it as a PNG. Fixed Act 1. There. Then I'll go into the priority space, upload a file. But yeah, how's everybody been after their holiday break? Are you guys getting back into things? Also gonna open up. I'm at work now, so I'm being lazy. Yeah. Hope the game's been great. Had an amazing. It's been amazing. The free DLC was great. What's coming next? I don't know, Rito. I don't know. We do need to do a paid DLC. I would like to do like some paid content because it's also. I think it's more motivating, which sounds maybe. I don't know if that sounds bad, but like it's more motivating to make something that could make some money, and you're like, well, if it could make some money, I want to make it good, and if I want to make it good, maybe I just want to add that one extra little feature, and let me add this one other thing, and somebody's going to be paying for it, so really let me make it worth it for them. So when you do that, I feel like for me, anytime I charge someone for something, I feel pressure to make sure it's good and put in that extra level of testing and care to make sure it's really fun. And I think that means it ends up better for you guys, and it's also a good motivator because the game's already out, so everyone or the majority of people who wanted to buy it have bought it. So there's not much motivation, right? The game's finished. It's not like I'm motivated to get to the finish line and launch the whole game. So there's little motivational like incentives to build on things right now. But if I had like an expansion that I'm looking forward to, and it's nothing too expensive or anything, maybe that could give me another little motivational kind of push. Yeah. What was I doing next? I think I'm looking at my to-do list here. So I fixed this, so we can delete that. What else have we got? When's the January update? Honestly, Riley, I might delay it. It might come in early February. Because I honestly I've been so lazy, dude. Everyone else is not being lazy. It's just me. Sorry, it's just way too hot. Let me take off my sweater. I might delay it because I've just been so damn lazy for these last 2 weeks. And I'm just so tired. And I think part of it, I burnt myself out. I definitely burnt myself out. Because everyone's like, don't burn yourself out, dude. You're already adding in a new DLC and you promise this big roadmap and everything. That's you're doing too much. And I think I burnt myself out a bit. And that's part of it. And also, I think I quit YouTube. And I think I lost a little bit of my identity. Like, my name is The Armchair Historian, right? Even on Discord. And I'm not The Armchair Historian anymore. I quit it. So I think it's kind of tough. It's like your identity got stripped away a bit, and the project is released, and I'm burnt out on top of that. So that combined just makes me feel a little bit like I'm getting back into it. I think like the first week of January was really, really tough. Not the first and the second was like New Year's, and I was just hanging out with family. And last week was like super, super tough. I didn't do anything. And this week I'm just trying to get like little things done. I think, yeah, I've never felt this way before. Has anyone else like finished a big project before and just been completely, I don't know. I think maybe I also get driven by stress, but good stress. Like you're excited to push a boulder up, not to use a pretentious Sisyphus example, but like it's a difficulty, but you just want to get to the top and you want to keep pushing. And you finally get there and you're just like, oh God, I'm just so fucking tired. So yeah, I think maybe that was like some of my motivation, and a lot of that motivation just got killed, especially when I ended the YouTube channel, and I still have to put out that video, but I think that's been tough for me, I think. I'm not really complaining or anything. I'm just saying how I feel, but officer skills. I don't think we need a lot of new officer skills. I feel like last update we added a few, and I think they're doing fine. I think doctrines is definitely something that I want to add a lot of new ones. What else did I promise? I also made a goddamn mistake because I promised a roadmap. I hope we don't go down to 89. Okay, good. I promised this roadmap with dates on it, and I think that's such a dumb idea because I think most like game roadmap seasons, I think usually you just put down like this. This is a perfect example. You just put down like, oh, I guess they do October, January and stuff. But no, but look at this. October to January, that's several months between those. And they just have a little bullet point list there. So I feel like what we did, where we did every November, December, January. Like they're like, oh, October and November, December. Like that's just all lumped in. So they almost did like one slice for every 3 months. whereas I did every month has a slice of tons of stuff. I think that was just not a good idea. In retrospect, I would do this differently. But let's see what I promised. We have new maps. I could make a new map, or at least start on one today. They're kind of easy to just chat while making a map. This we're working on right now. This we're also working on. It's almost done. I think it actually may be done already. It's pretty. The Unit Hall of Fame is actually kind of cool. I might have something to show you guys. Let me see if I could find it. Might just be an UI discussion. So first, we added this like Hall of Fame thing where you could put all your favorite regiments and officers and then just save them forever to be there. So if you ever did a playthrough and you really liked how a unit performed and did, you can kind of save it to your, you'll see like all of its kills and deaths and stuff, and you'll see all of its stats and all your officers and the traits they had and everything. So that's kind of something that we're working on there. And maybe in the far future, it'd be cool if you could actually pick units and officers that you saved out of here and then build a new starting composition, like a custom one, out of your favorite regiments, kind of like resurrecting them to do a new playthrough. That's kind of a neat idea, I think, maybe. Especially if you're struggling on something like the martial difficulty, you could then try a martial difficulty, like all difficulty modifiers, but you start with like 3 of your best units. So it's kind of like a new game plus type of thing. That could be a cool feature in the future. I don't have that planned right now, but it's just something I thought of. The other thing here that I think you guys will really like this is we have this new icon at the top of the UI, and that determines the AI's personality. So there's new personality profiles to give the AI a bias towards a particular way they're going to fight a battle. So one of them might be like really high aggression. So when you load into that battle, you know they're probably going to fire like a single shot and charge you. Which here's the other cool thing. I can technically make it so certain personalities are have biases towards certain nations. So you could even do like if you had like Sweden, you could make it so they're like that ultra aggression, firing a volley and charging is more common with the Swedes. I think that's kind of neat. But we could play around with different AI personalities. I think that'd be nice. Something that I want to just a note to self. Maybe I'll put it in my workspace. Note to self to give Tom any new AI parameters we need for the personalities, such as the ability of their defensive line. There's also another thing where like AI, right now, if they play defensively and you walk up to them, they break the defense and just charge you. Or they don't charge you, but they just attack you. And I wonder if, like, first of all, mechanically speaking, the defensive stance should be able to be reformed. They should be able to reform that defensive stance and not just be aggroed and attack you. But it'd be cool if that was also, once that's fixed, if we also attach that to the personality. This can also be a parameter that some AI do and some don't. So it'd be like maybe one AI, if you aggro them on one personality, they will just come at you, and another one, even if you aggro them, they won't come at you. So you might know certain personalities. You're like, oh, if I push up on them and give them a little pressure, I could fall back and then kind of bring them to me. So you can kind of like play around and manipulate different AI commander personalities. And I think that it sounds maybe exploity or gamey or something, but I think that's maybe cool if you have to change up the tactics or things that you do. Like if you had a hyper-aggressive AI who had a low percentage chance of being aggressive, or sorry, a low percentage chance of being defensive, but if they choose to be defensive, you can aggro them and piss them off and they'll come after you. That'd be cool to play against because first of all, they're probably not going to be defensive, but in the chance that they might, let's say the composition just happened to have 6 artillery batteries and you had none, even if they were ultra aggressive, the AI might be like, look, I have so many batteries, I'm just going to sit there and bomb you. But if they're ultra aggressive, you know you could probably aggro them, run up, and get them to chase you, and then they'll come after you. And I think that'd be a cool way to kind of mess with them. It would also mean that like if you ever played a battle where you got charged a lot, at least you'd know. You'd be like, oh, I must be fighting an aggressive commander. Or if an AI just sat back and camped a bunch, you'd know, oh, I'm fighting a defensive commander. So at least it would give some reason as to why the AI might be acting in a certain way. There'd still be randomness, so a defensive AI could still attack, and an offensive AI could still defend. But it's just like a general kind of like a bias, basically. And so that's something that we're working on as well. So officer skills, doctrines. What else did I promise for content? Probably encounters, right? Encounters. We need Autoresolve. I don't think so. I really don't think so, because the whole game is, when you play Total War, you have to manage your country and fight battles and manage 5+ armies. And if you engage 3 battles, you may not want to fight all of them. So you might auto-resolve 2 and then fight 1 manually. Or you might auto-resolve all of them because you just want to do the state management. But this game has none of that. In fact, you don't even have more than 1 army. So if you aren't fighting the battles, you're just skipping the game. So that's like saying, oh, I want to play Call of Duty, but I want the ability to auto-resolve a mission but in the campaign. But like that is the whole game. There's not really, like, if you auto-resolve or skip a mission, then you just beat the game without doing anything. And I think the whole point of the game is to fight battles. So if you're just skipping battles and auto-resolving and skipping through them, then you're not even really playing the game. So yeah, I don't really like that. And balancing auto-resolve is tough. Like, how many people... Total War is a AAA multi-million-dollar franchise. Has anyone ever played a Total War game and said, oh, the auto-resolve system's perfect. This is so accurate. I love how the auto-resolve is implemented. No one ever says that. Everyone always complains about it. So for us, a little indie team, we try it, and then we break everything, and then people are over-relying on it, or they think they're going to win an auto-resolve, and they don't, and then they complain about it, and then it bugs out, and then it just seems like I would rather save that for another game or something, you know? By the way, if we added Sweden, do you think that'd be too small of a... By the way, I know I'm not being very productive right now. I've literally done nothing right now, but I am... It's better than doing nothing. It's better than scrolling on Twitter. So at least I have to rebuild my conscientiousness to just do something, because I'm just really having a motivational struggle. So yeah, I'm being a little lazy, whatever, but at least we're talking about the game and I'm kind of building stuff out, or just laying things out. And if I don't get a lot done, it's better than waking up and doing nothing each day. And you have to have those little small victories, you know? If somebody isn't working out, but they just go for a walk and that's it, you know, that's not a very impressive thing, but at least you went outside. So for me, it's like anything I can do to kind of get that momentum back and get the excitement back a little bit. I've just been a little tired, that's all. So yeah, I'm just trying to get back into it. I mean, the end game, the enemies are no threat, but it makes no sense to let them run, so I sit there and play battle. It has no major tactical value. I think, Fred, that's probably just a deficiency with the game itself, but I don't think auto-resolve really solves that. It just lets you skip part of the game that you don't like as much, and I just don't think I want to add... I don't want to focus development time on that. Too small as in their presence. Sorry, yeah, I did not... explain what I said in very much depth. I just meant, like, if we just add one nation, like we did with the HRE, I don't know if that's enough. A Great Northern War DLC. Yeah, I don't know about that either. I don't know if I can bring myself to make something like that right now. You want to add Pike Warfare and, like, all new uniforms, all new 3D models, all new campaign map, all new... It's like building a... That'd be like building a little game. I think that'd probably take, like 4 months, maybe, to make. I think that's maybe a little bit ambitious right now, at least. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm not sure. Great Northern War is just a little bit tough, I think, for now. It doesn't mean it's not a... It's not a bad idea, but I think it's just so out of the time period, like, which is unfortunate because it's a really interesting war. But something like the War of Austrian Succession, which is not very interesting in being distinct, right? It's very similar to the 7 Years' War in terms of the combat and the nations and the commanders. It's quite similar. It wouldn't stand out. No one would want to buy that. It wouldn't stand out. But at least that's more within the time frame. It's more relevant. Like, I also think the American Revolution is more relevant because you don't have Pike Warfare. It's the same type of combat, but you can just, like, do new nations and stuff. I think that's a little easier. But Great Northern War is a little tough. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about anything too ambitious right now. Honestly, I'm like struggling to create one new encounter. So when we're talking about adding in, I don't know, it's not a live service game, so I just don't want to I'm just a bit tired. Like, if you ask me next month, I think I would be more open to this stuff, but I don't want to even. And OH, you sent me a huge list, and it's very nice of you, and I can tell that you're interested and excited about these sorts of ideas, but I can't even open that without getting stressed out. I can't even, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm real tired. I'm just trying to do a couple little things first, which I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself because I just said, oh, that we need to do something bigger than Sweden. What should we do? And then I immediately go, whoa, 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 guys, we can't do all that. So I don't know, but I'm just struggling. I'm just struggling a little bit. Officer skills, doctrines. I want to look at. I had the community suggest some doctrines. I want to do that first. I think, maybe. Trait ideas. This is great. Let's do traits. These are easy because I feel like with traits, I don't really need to rebalance many of them. But doctrines, I feel like even the existing ones need to be rebalanced a bit. Patriotic. Increase the effectiveness from one nationality while reducing from another nationality. Yeah, what you could do is like you could do something that says like I don't know if that really works. I made balance changes to items and did the work for you. Yeah, I don't. The thing is, OH, I don't like. You can copy and paste them. I don't like when other people will make a ton of changes and I just copy and paste all of them because I don't know what I'm actually doing, and it's not. I don't trust anybody to just copy and paste all their stuff. I have to check over to see what that person's doing. I don't trust. It's not specific to you. I just mean with anyone, I would need to review what you actually did in a lot of depth, and I'm too tired to look over 100+ items and review every single one of them in depth. And then the game's already done. Like, to be honest, if we never changed the items one more time for the rest of the game and the game was done, I would be fine with that. But I kind of just, like, I don't want to. It's not in development anymore, and I don't want to, like, all right, let's redo all the items for the third time. Let's redo how cavalry works completely for the third time. Let's just overhaul all the artillery for the third time. Let's just keep remaking the game over and over and over and over and over again. You know, it's finished. I think a lot of people had their fun with it, and I had my fun with it. And at this point, I'm just doing, like, some little things. And if we do some larger content additions now and then, when a little more time has passed, then that's fun as well. And that'd be more like expansions or something. I think that's cool. But I don't really want to go back and treat the game like it's still in development, where we're just, like, mass overhauling things repeatedly. And yeah, I don't know. That's just something that that I'm not right now in the mood to do. That's all. Maybe later I would. Maybe in a month I'd say, hey, we've been sitting on these items for a while now, and there's some deficiencies with some of the ways that the items work. How could we make them better? But I think the game it's so new. It's only been a couple months that things haven't sat long enough, I think. That's all. I think that's really the thing. It's just things have not sat. It'd be fun if things sat long enough that I said, gosh, I have not looked at Master Command for a little while. I'm kind of, you know what, let me check on this game again. But imagine if you played a game every day for 12 hours for 2 years, and then you go on a little break, and then 2 weeks later you're like, all right, let's make a new character in this game. Like, fucking hell, dude, I don't want to make a new character right now. I just finished it. Let's give it a couple months before I come back and get the energy to, like, oh, let's jump in, let's do new, So that's how I feel as a person who worked on it. I'm honestly really tired. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know. Not to make it. I didn't mean to turn on the stream. Honestly, I want to turn on the stream because it's fun to see you guys again. It's been a little while, and I just want to do a little bit of work and just try to get back into the flow of things a bit. But yeah, I don't know what it is for me. I think, yeah. Wikipedia says Russia switched fully to line infantry in 1721. Well, the Great Northern War was started before 1721. Isn't 1721 when it ended? Great Northern War. 1700 to 1721. So what about all the beginning of it? You would definitely need pikes if you were going to do the Great Northern War. At least I think so. I don't know enough about it. Maybe, am I wrong? Were pikes like super rare in this conflict? I kind of think that would be but there's no way we can do pikes. I'm just, yeah, I don't think so. You could, you know, if Sweden got added to the game, you can always recreate the Great Northern War just by starting the game as Sweden, only selecting Russia as an enemy, and just playing against them, and you don't have pikes, and yeah. The fact that you lose grenades when doing sieges is lame. Yeah, I thought about that too. I think my only reservation was if you didn't lose a grenade. If you didn't lose a grenade, it's, you know what it should be? You know what it should be, honestly? That you, let's write this down. For the encounter with a siege, with sieges, if you consume a grenade, it should be a guaranteed success, I think, in my opinion. Do you guys agree with that? If you have to consume and destroy one of your items, which the grenades can be a little expensive and hard to find sometimes, so I feel like maybe that's true, because I think right now it's only likely, meaning you could theoretically like burn through multiple grenades and still fail. But I also don't like the idea where, yeah, no, I think that's true. If you have to consume a whole item and destroy it from one of your units, I think you should guarantee just breaching the wall. It's only one stage, so I kind of feel that way. What are the dev update emojis? Oh, that's funny. This is like the... it's just a joke. What do we have in here? Better bounding box. These are old. Yeah. It's kind of fun going back at the old, looking at like the old versions of the game. Can I also ask you guys, I know the developers are going to kill me, Seb and Tom, if you're listening to this in the background, you're going to kill me. And I won't, let me preface a couple things. We're not going to start our next project. Here's something that is cool. We will be able to make a new game because of how well this one did. So we actually got all the funding to cover the next game, which is really great news. Like, I think I already made that announcement, but we don't even need a publisher. We could take one if we wanted one, right? But we don't even need one. Everything's funded, which is really, really cool. So I'm very happy about that. And that's not including like the money we would get daily from the current sales, right? Like a month from now, what we're still getting, like just from what we've already got, we've got the next game funded, which is really, really cool. It's yeah. What else did I want to say? Oh, and when we start a new game, I'm probably looking at like spring or something. And I kind of look at it, what a lot of games do is you put half your team on DLC and half the team on making the new game at the same time. The thing is, there's only like 4 of us. So we probably, instead of doing half the team would be on DLC, maybe we'd do like half the week is on Master Command and half the week is on a new game. So we're still supporting it, adding in some new content, some DLC, some fixes, and then the other half of the week we work on something new. And I think that would also fix some of my burnout, because I just finished this game and I have nothing to look forward to right now. I think that's part of it. Like, if you're a bit directionless, you finish the project, I have nothing to build toward right now, then I just feel a little crushed, right? It's kind of like, it's like a male postpartum depression where like you had the kid, it's over, the pregnancy's like, my project's out. You know, I carried my project for 1.5 years and it's out, and I have nothing to kind of build toward right now. So I think that would probably make me feel a little better later. But I am curious, and I won't spoil the type of game we're going to make next. And I don't want to talk too much about the next game in a way that would make it seem like we're going to abandon this one. And even though I think we could theoretically just start working on the next game, and I wouldn't consider that abandoned, because I think we delivered a pretty good experience. But I do intend on continuing to work on this game, and I have some more ideas and stuff. But I'm curious from you guys, we've spent the last couple weeks, the only thing I've had motivation to do is just to chat about new game ideas. And I'm kind of curious from you guys to maybe even just talk about time periods. We don't have to talk about mechanics or when we're going to start it or when we're pulling the team off or what mechanic works best or what concept works best and stuff. But I kind of have been debating between between going back to the Victorian period, honestly, and doing justice to it. Because I don't know if anybody here has played or heard of my first game, which was Fire and Maneuver. I think some of you guys probably found out about Master Command as it was being sort of announced or when it was released and didn't know about my prior games or prior game. But that's something that I've thought about. The other alternative for me was to do the 1700s again, but to just broaden the time period out a little bit. And the time period I was thinking of was like around 1740 to 1789, which would include the American Revolution plus the 7 Years' War. So it kind of just be an expanded version of the 1700s. But to me, that's one contender that I would be more, that I think would fit kind of my vision for whatever the next game idea would be. Or to do the Victorian period and do like 1840s to 1870s or something. And the fun part of that is transitioning the muskets to like breech loaders and doing that in a real-time combat game. Like especially in the progression on your camp when you're just equipping items. Imagine though equipping a musket for your first few regions, and the next region you get to, you find like breech loaders and stuff because the technology is improving. So your campaigns, I also envision our next game as being sort of an MoC 2 where we'd want to carry over some of these mechanics. I don't really want to start from scratch with the next game, and I don't want to do something like, oh, let's make a first-person shooter. Let's make a racing game. Like I think we have something cool with Master Command that I just want to build on right now. And yeah. Fire Maneuver 2.0 wouldn't be bad. I never was much of a fan of the I Go You Go turn system, and the game pace was a bit confusing by the controls. Yeah, I agree. It was a bit convoluted. Like I like the combat system that we have in the real-time combat and the camp management. I just think a new time period would be fun. Do you guys think it would be lame to do the same time period twice? I think it would be. I don't know if it would, but I think it would be nice to explore something new. I think it'd be a little refreshing. Because I was thinking, like, imagine the artist. We just made all the flag icons for the 1750s. What, with the next game, would we just reuse them? Like, that's kind of lame. Like, we're not even seeing new... Like, how much of the art would get reused? Like, it's not like we have got a gigantic budget to do everything in 10 times the resolution and detail. So, would we just be redrawing similar stuff? So I think that part of me feels like maybe we should only do the 1700s when we can revisit it and we have a bigger team and a bigger budget, and it would look significantly different from this original version. That's kind of how I feel. Like, to do it 2 times in a row feels like it's not going to look different enough. But to revisit it after another game and come back to it might be more interesting, you know? As much as I want a game set in 1798 United States Irishman Rebellion, I feel like American Civil War Master Command. Yeah, I've been thinking about the Victorian period because you've got the Franco-Prussian War, the Austro-Prussian War, the Crimean War, the Wars of Italian Unification, the American Civil War. You could even do expansions for like the Boshin War or like the Anglo-Zulu War. Could you imagine like camp management of a Zulu army or something? That'd be kind of cool. Because there's no game that does that. I think that's quite neat. Like you don't even have a single Total War game that does that. You have mods you could try. But that's interesting. The issue about the Napoleonic Wars, I think Napoleonic Wars is low-hanging fruit. But the issue I find with that is that you already have Napoleon Total War, which isn't that big of a deal. It's an old game, but it does exist. And you have the new Grand Tactician game, which the new Grand Tactician is the Civil War. Or, sorry, the Napoleonic Wars. Which, if you see this here, which you should wishlist it if you haven't. It gives some support to these developers. It looks like a good game. But, like, they're doing this already, and... I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't... I don't really have that much interest in the Napoleonic Wars, to be honest. I've never really been a huge fanatic of the Napoleonic Wars. That's not to say I couldn't do a game in it, but they're literally making this game, so why would I do the same game, you know? So, plus I think here's my other reservation is I like historical games from the perspective of like a sandbox or like alternate history, where you can do whatever you want to and change history. Like one of my favorite games of all time was Europa Universalis 4, because it's not on rails. That game is not a railroaded experience. By the end of the game, you have mechanics that emulate major historical moments like revolutions, you have a religious war, and so on. But the way that religious war turns out is different every time you play, and you get to influence that. You could suppress all of Protestantism, so by the time a religious war starts, it's a dud, right? It doesn't force you to play and reenact the 30 Years' War with all of its iconic battles. But like, for example, the Napoleonic Wars is kind of like the World War II Hearts of Iron of this kind of period, where World War II, you play World War II to reenact Stalingrad, to reenact Normandy, to use the exact tanks and tactics and commanders. It's not about your influence and how you're changing history. And to be fair, Hearts of Iron and the developers of that game have steered it more toward alternate history, and that's fine. But okay, sure, you can take an event that's only popular because of the way it happened and unfolded in a very particular way, and you could slap alternate history on top of it, or you could pick a period that's more generalized that lends itself well to something more dynamic where anything could occur across a larger period. I don't know if that makes sense, but my point here is, like, with the Napoleonic Wars, a selling point I find to the Napoleonic Wars is, look at this. It says detailed campaigns from Napoleon's Italian campaign to 100 days. And the other thing is taking place in battlefields generated from the topography in the exact locations. So you're reenacting the Napoleonic Wars, right? That to me is like a selling point of the Napoleonic Wars. But for the games I like to make and work on, I like that it's not the exact topography. It's not the exact location. It's your location. It's your story. I would even like for the next game to have more RPG elements where you create your own commander. I want it to be more about, even Ultimate General was all about reenacting certain battles, and that's not to give an excuse to make the battles generic, but I like starting a fresh campaign in Empire Total War or Europa Universalis and thinking, oh, what am I going to do this game? What opportunities will I seize? Where will I go? What will I do? I don't like to think, how will I reenact this exact moment, or oh, this is the exact moment or battle of this exact location. And that's fine. There are games that do that, and they do that well. But I don't know if I want to work on that. Like, I like things that feel more open-ended. And so that's why I think the Napoleonic Wars is fine. First of all, it's already being done, so I wouldn't want to make a game set in that period. But I think it'd be fine if, like, you had a game where it starts in the 1700s and progresses to a revolutionary time period, and then the revolution that occurs could be in different countries, and it could happen differently every time, so you have that transition. That's more interesting to me. But again, if these guys are doing the Napoleonic Wars, I don't need to do that either. And doing that would also imply that we'd be starting in the 1700s again, which we just did. Which maybe that's not a huge deal. But do you guys feel that a little fatigue? Not fatigue, but like, if you saw a trailer, and in the trailer you saw the same uniforms and the same units, but just a little bit expanded, maybe like Americans and Spaniards and stuff that you wouldn't see in Master Command, would that be as exciting as seeing something totally fresh? To me, I think I would like something that you would see it and you go, oh, that's new. Like, I've not seen that combat or those uniforms in that style before. And that doesn't mean you can't revisit the 1700s and everything, but I do like something that sounds kind of fresh, you know? And I don't know if I'm in the minority there. I'd ultimately also like to make games for you guys. So I'm not interested in making games for myself necessarily. Which is to say, I'm not making games in a vacuum. Like, I like to make stuff that other people would be excited about. So if other people are excited about the game and I'm interested in it, those things have to be aligned, then that makes it fun to me. It's fun when people are excited about something you're working on. It's not fun when you like this one niche thing and nobody else does, and who are you making it for? So it's got to be a balance, basically, between those two. But yeah, to respond to like a couple of things, like Ace said, oh, you've got to do the American Revolution. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but doing the American Revolution or the American Civil War or the Napoleonic Wars, I don't know if that's in the spirit of what Master of Command is. Like, do you guys think Master of Command is a good game because it's reenacting the 7 Years' War? To be honest, when I play the game, I turn on all the enemies. I don't care. I go to any region I want to. I don't try to go to the exact regions that happen in the 7 Years' War and use 7 Years' War units. And that's fun sometimes to reenact like certain units, like to customize them. But I feel like the game is fun as a semi-sandbox game where you have different enemies and different locations and you kind of create a different army every time. And so I almost think that whatever the next game is, it shouldn't be a specific war. Like, I think it should be a more general time period. If you do a game that says the American Revolution, I expect Bunker Hill and the reenactment of that battle. And if you did the Napoleonic Wars, I expect Waterloo and the reenactment of that battle. But yeah, to what, Joni, what you're saying, simulates early modern battles. That's kind of what yeah, Ace, that's exactly right. Not a specific war, but more of a general time period. Yeah. I actually put together a few things. I don't know if I want to show anything off. I don't think I don't think I really do, but yeah. I don't want to show anything off yet because it's just too early. I had like these little presentations and stuff I've been using for my developers, but I don't want to give away what we're thinking too much yet. But yeah, what I do know is I think I want to do kind of a follow-up to this game. I still like the camp idea. I want to build on that. And yeah, I don't know. I think the two periods I've been considering is something again in the 1700s or the Victorian era. I don't know if I have the personal interest or knowledge in exploring too much else right now. Like, I think Pike and Shot might be, it unfortunately might be one of my least favorite historical time periods, which I don't know if I'd work on something like in my least favorite time period. I think that'd be not fun because I have to dedicate my life to it for multiple years, and I think that would be a shame because it's just not interesting to me. I'm not interested in the character, or like the historical figures, or the combat, or the battles, or the uniforms, or the paintings. I don't really have any interest in that at all. I think the difficulty is like I got into history from World War II. So going into like the Middle Ages and shit, I don't know. I think maybe at some point I would, if I had like a larger team as well and I wasn't working in the trenches as much, then maybe I'd be more open to other periods. But if I have to be one of the main people working on it and I'm in the trenches doing the research and I don't have consultants to rely on and I don't have the budget for a huge team and everything and I'm there and I have to do it purely out of passion, it's difficult to do something that I just don't, that I'm more apathetic toward. To me, I think Pike and Shot would be like, maybe I'm being too close-minded, I don't know. But it'd be kind of like if someone was pitching to do a fantasy game. Like, I don't know. I'm not really interested in fantasy stuff. Like, I don't want like dwarves and elves. I wouldn't call Pike and Shot Middle Ages. Yeah, that's not what I mean. I actually meant the Middle Ages. I meant to say I don't have much interest in the Middle Ages, nor do I have an interest in antiquity, nor the Renaissance really. At least not right now. Maybe I would. Maybe I'd grow into it at some point, but I don't know why. But I just don't feel motivated into that period, or those three periods, I suppose. Like, I think a Master of Command game about being a Roman commander with your own actual military camp and going to different regions across Europe and building your Roman force, that can make for a very good game, but I'm not interested in it right now. So I think that's definitely something that I have to kind of work around as well. is something I'm interested in. It makes it really hard to figure out. Like I've been honestly struggling with. I mean, of course it's hard because you're dedicating. You have to pick something that you're going to dedicate years to. So it's a really big. It's not easy. You've got to really pick something that you're going to be dedicated to in a really meaningful way. So, at least right now. Which I think at some point, like at some point in my life, my interests will change and grow, and maybe 3 years from now, I'll really love the pike and shot era, or I'll love sci-fi, or I don't know, whatever it is. But I think right now I don't have that drive to do that sort of thing. I do agree that the pike and shot era is a good fit for something that's more open-ended and sandboxy. But I would like, for me, if I saw a game trailer and they made a really like well-made pike and shot game, I wouldn't buy it. But if I wouldn't even play that game, I don't know how I would make it, you know? I think that if you make a game, you should be someone who would be in the market for that game, because then you'll know everything that people will want from it. If a person hated first-person shooters and then was in charge of making Call of Duty, they will make bad Call of Duty games, right? That's at least my opinion. So I think if I would not be interested in that game, then yeah. I remember thinking the Napoleonic era was boring a few years ago, but now it's my favorite time period. Yeah, I think that happens to everyone. I think your interests will grow and change over time, but I think right now at this time, I think the time periods I find compelling and interesting, and I would dedicate my time and interest to, would be like this range. I'm also interested in like that range, but this is not a game I would make right now. It's not the right time, or it's not the right, I don't have anything I'm interested in pursuing this, so I wouldn't pursue that right now. This is like an area I like to work in right now. I don't have interest really outside of that at this time, I think. Which, yeah, I don't know. This is just kind of the area that I'm in at the moment. And you could do 18th century and do pike and shot. Johnny, I feel like you didn't even listen to me. Despite my 15 minutes of saying I didn't like the pike and shot. Have you considered pike and shot? How would you do World War II games? I don't actually know. That's why I would eliminate that. Like, I'm not interested in World War II, right? Or I'm interested in it, but I don't think it's something that I would want to pursue right now. It doesn't fit. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a tough one. And it's not a collaborative thing. Everyone here is going to have their own ideas of things that they find compelling and they find interesting in different parts of the world, and different periods in history. Like, Johnny's still telling me to do pike and shot, even though I just said I have no interest in it. But he clearly loves it, right? Like, everybody has something they love and that they care about and they're interested in. And it's going to be a tough decision to pick something that aligns with something I'm really interested in, that my audience is really interested in too. And yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. Where was I? Encounters, doctrine, skills. Yeah, I've got to work on these here. But have you considered making a pike and shot game? Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame that I think a good chunk of my audience loves that period, but I don't. So that's a shame. It's a shame that there's a misalignment with that. I wish I liked it more, but I just don't right now. It's crazy how many wars of succession built up to the 7 Years' War. Yeah, the early to mid 18th century is full of I do have a chart that I'll show you guys, which doesn't, this isn't really game ideas. This is just some research I was doing. So in case you didn't know about these time periods, I put together like a couple little charts. But I think if I were to return to the 1700s, which I think I wouldn't do again immediately, I think I'd give it a break. But if I did it, I found some historical figures who took positions or attempted to take positions of leadership, but also led armies. Because I thought it would be cool for a game where that's something that you might aspire to, is like being a commander, but maybe even being a leader at some point. And a person like Frederick the Great actually did both. He was the king and a commander. And then I plotted out on these bars of like when they were active historically. And I was looking at this, and I found most of them were active in this like space of all these figures who led armies, but also led or attempted to lead countries. And so you have all these kind of succession wars back here, but you have a lot of commanders who were just commanders, and also I just don't know that this period isn't very compelling to me. But I do like this chart here because you have like you kick it off with Austrian succession, you get the 7 Years' War, you get the American Revolution, you could end it with the French Revolution, and you have all these great figures who took military roles but actually led a country at some point. So imagine a game where you could actually do both. That as a character, that's interesting to me. It's not that you would choose a character to reenact, but you get to be your own character, and the mechanics of what a person like George Washington would do, like he was a Virginia militia officer but also a president. Well, what's a game where you could do both of those things in the same game, and then maybe do one of those things in Europe and then do one of those things in America? And I don't know, like mechanically being inspired by that. And then I was also researching the Victorian period too, and finding compelling figures. Like Grant was a commander, but also a president. Napoleon was a president first, then an emperor, then a commander. So he actually kind of reversed it, which is quite interesting. Bismarck was a politician who also then became a commander. It's kind of interesting here because a lot of these figures, or some of them, started as a politician, then became a commander in a way. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on the battlefield, but they had like a lot of influence with wars. Like Napoleon was actually on the battlefield, by the way, but these people I find interesting. Like Crazy Horse as well was a tribe's leader who took command of a native force, the Lakotas. This is an interesting Polish figure who was a Russian officer, then a Polish revolutionary figure, then a Polish dictator or attempted dictator, but he failed in it. In leading, he's a very similar figure, I think, to this Polish figure who also fought in the American Revolution, then went back to Poland and tried to do a revolution there. And yeah, I find these interesting. And I will say that this period is full of very compelling conflicts. This is something that I think inspires me in a lot of ways. Like from the 1840s or 1830s, between the Mexican-American War, the Wars of Italian Unification, the Crimean War, the Franco-Prussian War, the U.S. Civil War, the January Uprising in Poland, the Boshin War in Japan, the Taiping Rebellion in China, the War of the Triple Alliance in South America. It's extremely compelling that this span, which is roughly like, I would say probably 1846 to 80. That's a very compelling span and wars you could be kind of like it's even interesting because guys like McClellan were like General McClellan in the U.S. Civil War was an advisor during the Crimean War. He was actually like spectating it, and even guys like Moltke of the Prussian army was sent as an advisor into Egypt under the Ottomans and went back to Prussia and helped to unify Germany as a commander. So there's just, and then Garibaldi is also such an interesting figure too. And this guy was an Italian revolutionary, went to Sicily and like formed his own little country, but then like gave it back to the Italian monarchy to help with the unification, then went over to South America. I think he actually went to South America first and there was a South American war that he was a general in, or at least he was a commander in. And then he was also a general in the Franco-Prussian War, which is so interesting. But also his red shirt volunteers even helped out with the January Uprising, I'm pretty sure. So here you have look, Garibaldi Legion. Small unit of Italian volunteers. The unit was named after Garibaldi, organized by his son. So that's so interesting to me. I don't know, like, I find myself always very drawn to this. I personally believe McClellan was watching the siege of Sevastopol, and that's why he was so pensive in the American Civil War. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was referring to. But like, imagine a game where, I don't know. I would say like the two games I had envisioned was a game where it's in the 1700s and you're in Europe and North America, and you create a character and you can kind of go anywhere. You travel along the map, kind of like Mountain Blade or like Battle Brothers, and you take on contracts and you help jumpstart a revolution, or you become a military commander and rise up the ranks, or you try to overthrow a country. And that's like, it's like a sandbox. I don't want to make a roguelike. It's like a sandbox where you can do anything. But I think I feel burnt out from doing the 1700s again, that I think I need to give it a break. So I kind of want to like pause on this concept. And so this is something that does inspire me, though. I feel excited about. Like, could you imagine we had a 3D graphics engine, which we're already working on, by the way. At least passively, like working on some technical stuff of like how that could be done. We haven't like committed to it yet, but I think whatever the next game is, we'll have a 3D battle engine. But could you imagine seeing these dudes in a 3D, these uniforms and stuff in a 3D battle engine, like troops laying down with needle guns and rapid firing off like breech loaders? Also, though, could you imagine starting the game with muskets and like progressing and then equipping your dudes with needle guns? Like, gosh, that just sounds so compelling to me. Even like American Civil War, like starting with smoothbores and being a career officer and fighting through the Civil War, and then what happens after the Civil War too. And I don't know. There's I thought the soldiers are 3D. Yeah, I just mean like the whole battle environment is 3D, and the troop models are 3D and more detailed. And I've always loved this period because I did it with Fire Maneuver, and it would feel satisfying to me to go back and do it correctly. But even you mentioned Ultimate General. Ultimate General is like, it's good, but like, where are the battle flags? Where's the actual models of these troops? Where's the Zouaves? Where are those? Like, they're just dots. These are just 2D sprites. It's just not as compelling, I think, in that. Like, I would almost imagine, I want it to look like that. That's what I want it to look like. Which I will say, in terms of the team's capabilities, I think we can make a pretty kick-ass battle system and really build on what we're doing. I have no worries about the ambitiousness. The only thing I'd be worried about with the ambitiousness of a battle system is if we were trying to do like full-blown medieval combat, because we're not quite there. That's tough to pull that off and make it good, at least in my opinion, because you want them to push back and forth, and like even in the melee combat in Master of Command, you guys have noticed, is a little bit buggy and a little bit laggy, and it's a little harder to make that work. And I'm not as, we could pull it off, but I'm not as confident in it. But continuing with the gunpowder, we could make some really compelling battles, and our team is really, really confident in our battle system. The campaign system, maybe less so. Like, I'm feeling less ambitious about the campaign system. I don't want to tackle like, oh, try to do a giant Total War game or do a giant grand strategy game. Like on a campaign level, I don't want to make something too ambitious. I don't want to go crazy. But with battles, I really feel like I could make something like this. Even like gosh, this looks so cool. Like I would love to make something like that with these uniforms and these units and everything. I don't know. There's something about that that's really interesting to me. And I think in this game idea, something that we've been like, I promise I wouldn't get into the weeds of it, but I'll just explain some very rough ideas of what we've been considering, where it's like, you could do just North America and Europe again. But imagine the game starts out with you making like almost like an RPG game. You make an officer, you make a character, and you can start the game in like 1840, end it in like 1880. But it'd be cool if you would follow in the footsteps of someone like Grant or something, where you start off as just a low-level officer in like the Mexican-American War or something. If let's say you picked America as your allegiance, and you would do the 3-layer campaign system just like Master Command. maybe you'd do 2 layers. I don't know if you'd want to do 2 layers, but you'd have kind of your grand strategic map. Then you'd have your node. We call it a node map, but it's basically that real-time map that you move on where you go to towns and buy stuff. And then you'd have the battle system, which, again, I don't know if I'd want to keep the 3-layer system, but you could kind of build off of all these. Like the battles, you could make more mechanically in depth. You could do it 3D, like everything 3D. Actually have 3D terrain and everything, right? The real-time map would have like all the towns and stuff that you could visit, but you could have other armies on this map doing things, and you could interact with them, and you'd have like more dynamic objectives to do on that map. And then what I'd call like the global map, I don't know what else I'd call it, but we'll just call it the global map, would contain the countries. So let's say it would contain Jesus. At least for now. Shit. There. Not drawn a world map in a while. There you go. There's my North America and my Europe. I'm trying the best I can. Oh, Jesus, oh, gosh. I feel like I'm a fantasy map maker who, like, makes something that kind of looks like Europe, but they're like, no, it's a fantasy world. I'm like, no, I think you just took Europe and you flipped it upside down. That's how it is when I'm drawing my map. There you go. That's the best I can do. There you go. But yeah, I don't know. Instead of like receiving 3 missions and you just have to follow one, like what if you had like influence points? Like I have 26 influence points and I spend that influence on saying like, sir, I request to be transferred to this front, or like that campaign. I want to embark on this campaign. And you rise up the ranks. Like this wouldn't be a grand strategy map. It'd kind of just be like the current master command map with just a couple layered mechanics on top of it. And so you rise up the ranks and like you gain more responsibility. Maybe you could send one of your officers off to another campaign or something. But we don't have to simulate economics or diplomacy or really anything much like that. And then you'd have like your real-time map and your battle system, and maybe something like this would work. But you're still a low-level officer rising up the ranks. It could be cool if there was like a DLC where if you are a high enough rank, you could kind of like declare yourself emperor or something, kind of like what Napoleon did. Because I was kind of inspired by in the Battle of Solferino. Oh, Jesus, my spelling, I'm sorry. Napoleon is physically there as the emperor. He's there on the battlefield. In fact, Solferino is a very interesting case because it is the last major battle in world history where all the armies are under personal command of the monarchs. That's interesting to me. So Victor Emmanuel II is actually there as an Italian commander. Napoleon III is actually there as a French commander. And Franz Joseph I from World War I is actually there as a commander on the battlefield in Solferino, which is very interesting to me. So you could even rise up the ranks and eventually like be like, all right, I'm emperor or something. But that's getting ahead of myself. But yeah, you could run a very surface level simulation where nations like have very basic checks to go to war with each other and kind of like expand on the map and move around. Just very, very surface level, very basic. But you are in the position of being a commander on that map. And maybe you could spend that influence to like provoke a war. So you're the reason America invaded Mexico. And you go, it's just a funny example, but like you get a very surface level interactions here, but you're posted on campaigns and you rise up the ranks. And it's not a roguelike. It's more of like a long-term career game. And maybe you're sent off as an advisor to Crimea or something. And you could kind of gamify it so you could actually lead in battles, even if McClellan didn't actually do that. But it's still a video game. Or Moltke was sent to Egypt, for example. And then the second layer, you have that real-time map that we would just build on and just make this more interesting, more encounters and more in-depth towns, things like that. And then the battles, you'd have the 3D battles that are more dynamic. And maybe select objectives on the actual battle that you can go for. So not every battle is just a grind to kill each other. And the other cool thing about this is the map could just be set like this and could contain just the fire maneuver nations. Like the 9 nations from fire maneuver. And then we could expand on it. Like you could expand the map to Japan, or expand it to Africa, or expand it to China, or expand it to South America. It'd be very easy to do that too, because this map would just be like a PNG with like a basic simulation going over it. So you'd just be able to build it out until eventually you have this like global career game. I don't know. Would just be interesting. Like also it fits too, because like imagine being an American general being sent to Japan as an advisor, and you're given like a small Japanese contingent. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Or like you're an Italian commander, like a Garibaldi type figure sent to South America for an expedition, and then you go back and you fight an Italian war or something. So like expeditions on a global scale would work. Or you're an English commander sent to India, then sent to Africa, and then back because a big European war kicked off. You could even take, again, just a very simple mechanic. You could even take like the crisis system in Victoria 2, where you have a big endgame crisis where all the nations go to war. You could even do something like that. So you kind of just kick things off at the end and have a big war. Anyways, that's just kind of like an idea I was thinking of. I don't know if it's interesting or if it's worth pursuing, but I'm just in a stage where I'm just kind of generating ideas and, yeah, just trying to pursue something I'm interested in. But it would be cool to feel like I think the cool thing that would make me feel really proud would be going back to this Victorian period. And even the map, like let's see if this is on the internet at all, the main menu. I don't know if anybody screenshotted it on Google Images, but even the main menu is like this. And it'd be cool to go back to it and be like, and to do it correctly, to do it well. And use all of our master command lessons and mechanics and carry those over and make something that's, I don't know, that would feel good to me. I would feel good about doing that. I don't know if that's the right decision to make right now, but it is just something that is interesting to me, I guess. And I'm trying to think if there's really anything else. The only thing I'm considering is like, should there be 2 layers to this, or should you move around the map physically? I would hate to see F&M thrown out. I don't know if I'd be throwing out Fire Maneuver. It's more about like going back and kind of being a spiritual successor to it and just giving it actual justice and doing the game properly. It wouldn't be a turn-based game. It'd be in set with the Master Command real-time mechanics and everything, but yeah, it's just a shame what happened to the game, and I think it would be fun to, yeah, I don't know. Rule the Waves game. What is the campaign for Rule the Waves? This is like the ultimate spreadsheet game, but what happens on the campaign level? That's interesting. So it's like this map that's, I would be curious more what happens there. Yeah, pick a nation and then you should probably select a region on the global map and then move through it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Control of a navy, not the whole nation. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of like Espiocracy. This game's not out yet, but like they just have this simple like PNG map that just does stuff, but you're just a like spy master or like an espionage agent. This is a little too much interaction on this map because the whole game is on this map. But I would kind of think of it like it's like a basic PNG map with some simple things happening, and you're just a general, and then you're posted to certain regions, and then you have these kind of like master command regions that you move through, and it'd be like a big career. And technology would change, and your army would evolve, and things like that. I think that's quite interesting to me. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I don't know if that's what I want to do yet, but yeah, so this has like a basic simulation going on, but you're just in charge of the Navy, right? So there's people doing stuff, but it's not it's not like it's trying to do Hearts of Iron on the grand map. It's just, oh. So there's basic little events that happen. That's interesting. Graphically, it's pretty rough, but mechanically, it looks very in-depth. The game did well. Sold 500,000 in net revenue. That's cool. Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought. I've never played that one. Should I check it out? It's got mixed. Yeah, this also does something similar, doesn't it? Just has this map that you're not. An alliance agreement is considerable. We have money. So countries are doing stuff. World politics. Interesting, interesting. But you're just in charge of the fleet. That's interesting. Is that worth checking out for some inspiration to see how they do it? I think that's a cool thing to kind of model, is like you have a very basic. Plague Inc. does it too. Let's see. Which one? I guess the $15 one is the newest one, I imagine. I think this game all takes place on the map, though. I don't think you really have another layer to this. Like, Dreadnought has another layer where you have these battles there. But then you have the grand map where it's not too complex, but you just have stuff happening. It was abandoned mid-development. Yeah, that's a shame. Age of Sail. How does Age of Sail is just a linear set of missions, though, right? Or is the map dynamic? Is there like a dynamic campaign map? So you guys recommend... I'll write down your recommendations. Maybe I'll buy them for research. It's linear, but the gameplay is fun. Yeah. I'll maybe check out Age of Sail's linear mission based. Gotcha. Age of Sail, but it's linear based. Look at Ultimate General American. Dude, I played Ultimate General American Revolution. I don't like to shit on other games, but gosh, dude, I cannot get into that. It's also way too ambitious and like laggy, and I'm on a 4090 and it lags if you just try to look at like the economic map. That is not... I don't think Ultimate General American Revolution is a very good example for very much. I don't know. It's just not... Something's not right about it. And I say that as a person who really loved Ultimate General Civil War. I really like that game, so I'm not just being biased against the Ultimate General games, but the American Revolution one, dude, I just cannot get into that. I don't know. It's a really cool concept that you have like regiments physically moving around on the map, and then they engage in battle, and where those regiments were placed on the campaign map is where the battles happen. That's really interesting. They ran him off, and now he's developing a Roman Legion camp game. Yeah, I've seen the Roman Legion camp game. It's a little bizarre. I saw the website, and there's some like pornography on it. It's a little weird. So I don't know what they're doing with that. Again, I'm not speaking poorly on them, but I was just a little shocked to see that. What else is there that you guys said? You said Dreadnought had something similar. I don't know if I can buy that Rule the Waves. Is that what it's called? That looks a little bit... This looks a little hard to get into if you're not big into naval combat stuff. But Dreadnought is interesting. It's very interesting that this... Oh, actually, did out-earn Rule the Waves. I was going to say that Rule the Waves did better. Just saying, love to see French and Indian War expansion for MoC. Yeah, I don't know if... Would you guys rather... If we did an expansion for MoC, would you rather it be the American Revolution or the French and Indian War? I feel like the American Revolution might be more interesting, at least. Because what do you do in the French and Indian War that... You have the same nations, and... Yeah, I don't know if I'm interested in doing that. If there's not much room and time to do many expansions, or maybe there is, I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This is the newest Fable, isn't it? You said Fable 3. Is that on Steam? I guess not. I don't know if this has much inspiration for that, but Hey Gemini series, yeah, Hey Gemini is interesting. Hey Gemini is a cool game. I've played these. I have the Clash of the Ancients, and I think I preferred the Roman one. That's in like Caesar. But this is a pretty cool game. It's like an RTS on a global map. It's pretty neat. CUH3 tried to do a large campaign map like Ultimate General American Revolution. Their Total War-esque map became unwieldy. Have you played Ardennes? I played Ardennes Assault. Ardennes Assault campaign map's pretty basic though. Pretty basic, I think. But it played better. But I do agree that like I think there is a lot of risk with these devs trying to pull off these big campaigns. And you know, I will say, from a game design standpoint, one thing that's interesting to watch, like Company Heroes try this. Company Heroes 3 tried to do a big campaign map, and Ultimate General American Revolution tried to do a big campaign map. Neither of them made it a sandbox. And I feel like people are not... I think people miss the point. At least for me, at least that's the way I see it, where I like games like Total War, not because it's a reenactment. I don't play Empire Total War has more players than Napoleon Total War. In my opinion, I think that's because the map is bigger and it's more of a sandbox, even if the mechanics are worse, the graphics are worse, and the time period is less popular. I think it's more popular because it plays more like a sandbox. It's not reenacting Napoleon's story. When you play Napoleon Total War, how many ways can things go? It's like Napoleon is on the continent, and either you oppose him or you're with him, and that's it. And it plays out in those two particular ways, and you're done. And I think when developers try to do these grand strategic maps, there's issues with Company Heroes 3, and there's issues with Ultimate General American Revolution from a mechanical standpoint, of course. But it's also just a matter of what can you actually do from a sandbox perspective. Medieval 2 is a great sandbox. Every time you play Medieval 2, you create your own goals and do whatever you want to. Medieval 2 is not a game framed around the 100 Years' War or the War of the Roses or the Crusades. People like playing Medieval 2 because you can just go and do whatever you want to do, and you get to use your imagination. I think that's the fun part of games like that, which I think is not focused on maybe enough from certain developers, and we're curious why some games fail. But if you don't give the player an interesting fantasy, and you're reenacting someone else's story, you could play that once, but I'm not going to play that again. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you think about incorporating some of the visuals from your videos? I think Daniel, that I think we should go away from a lot of those. That's not to say we can't have personality in the art style and to make it unique, but I think that people do not like the cartoony art style. And for example, our lead artist on Master Command also drew this kind of artwork. I'll show you the work he's done. He's drawn this. This is on his Twitter page. And he's drawn this. And this still looks like it has character and style. But I think this is more realistic. And it would take him longer to do, but I think people would prefer an art style like that. So I think that is more the art style that I would probably be more going toward for our next game. Coincidentally, he draws a lot of like South American 1800 stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough to say what to do next from a development standpoint. I like the front lines layout and how it moves around the units advancing. I don't know what that means, Daniel. Do you mean on my YouTube videos? Hi, Miko. Thank you for the compliment, man. I'm glad you're having fun. Does he have an art station or webpage? He has a Twitter. Nico Vico. Nico Vico Art. So that is our lead artist. Have you seen the artist they got for Grand Tactician? It's like those 2000s Grand Military RP. Yeah, I saw that. That's cool. Yeah, Scurrier, I am definitely planning on doing more DLC and expansion, so you don't have to worry. I'm just for fun. I'm just talking about future game idea stuff. I'm not talking about like stopping all development of Master Command. There's still more I would like to do with it. So I agree with you. But yeah, he's a great artist. I think this is a cool art style. And that's not to say that Master Command, our current art style is bad or anything like that. But like, for example, the Second Boer War, the front line stalemated when the units stalemated. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean, Daniel. Or what you're asking about, I guess. Is there a story of how you hired Nico? I don't remember. I think I was maybe on ArtStation looking for artists and looking for historical artists, and he made really cool stuff like this. And I tried hiring him for the channel, but we didn't really need artists for the channel at that time. And then I was doing Fire and Maneuver. He actually worked on Fire and Maneuver. He made the unit cards on that game. And then for Master Command, I decided to move him into a more official position. So these are the unit cards he did for Fire and Maneuver. Which, again, I'm still inspired by this stuff. That's why I like the Victorian period. I do have, like, a passion for... I love this so much. I love this more than, like... if you did this with, like, Pike and Shot, first of all the uniforms would look the same. No offense to my Pike and Shot fans, but, like... The variety within a unit is interesting. Like, each guy within a unit wears something a little different. But between armies, each army wears something very similar to each other, which is not as interesting to me. Like, I'm looking at this. Notice it says infantry regiment because this could be anything. You could paint this to be any regiment, right? It's not very unique. But, like, I do love the art that Nico made for Fire and Maneuver, and I love the ways that these uniforms came out. And the unit cards, they look so good. I have so many of these that Nico made. And the game wasn't successful, and it's a shame that these never really got... These still hold up. Like, these still have aged well, in my opinion. Look at the Prussian ones. I love that. Imagine these guys on the battlefield with the Pickelhaubes. I love that. You got the French, too. You got the Zouaves. Gardemobile. Voltigeur. It's cool with the French Foreign Legion. That's neat, too. Gosh, look at the cavalry uniforms. Aren't they cool as hell? I do love that. Cavalry looks great. It's interesting, the Prussian... I forgot the Prussian cuirassiers wore, like, a silver Pickelhaube. It's neat. British Life Guards have that, too. The Russians, the difficulty of the Russians, a lot of these units were ceremonial. So this giant eagle on the helmet is not something you would go into combat with. I think the Chevaliers were, like, not even a combat unit generally, but we just put them in for variety. Ottoman cuirassiers are really cool. Look at the arrow plate that goes in front of the nose. That's so cool, isn't it? You have the Bashi bazooks. They're cool. I like the U.S. cavalry. Confederate ones are the bushwhackers with, like, the red plaid shirt. That's cool, too. Austrians have some cool uniforms there. The Uhlans look neat, I think. Italian cavalry uniforms, not so much. These are pretty basic. Their red shirts are cool, though. I like the red shirts and the red shirt Zouaves. I think they're really cool. What else do we have? Dude, the Japanese are sick. Look at the mounted samurai. They're pretty sick. I love the time period. So, yeah, I don't know. Your next game needs to be Victorian simply based on how excited you are. I know. I do get real excited about it. It's funny because I was talking to a publisher, and the publisher was saying things like, "Oh, why medieval is like really popular. Why wouldn't you? Maybe you could even beat medieval Total War to market. Like why wouldn't you do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think it's all right." And then he was like, "What even is in the Victorian period?" And I just got so excited. I was telling him all about all the wars and stuff about the Victorian period. He's like, "All right, I think you should probably do that time period. Regardless of if you work with us or whatever, I think you should probably do it because of how excited you are about it." So I know I do get into, and it kind of happened even with Master Command. I really got into like the Prussian. I painted, these miniatures do not look very good, but I would even paint miniature models because of how just obsessed I would get. I'll show a picture. Again, these are not very impressive. These are my little, they're very dusty because they've been on a shelf. But I typically paint with like a contrast style where I leave a lot of the uniform black so that when it's far away on the game board, they stand out. That's why I paint them with these black bits. But when you zoom in, it doesn't look quite as good. But I really loved the mid 1700s when I was working on Master Command. But I like to really obsess over time periods and immerse myself in them. And I think I'm already painting my Civil War models, like so I was I think it's already something that I'm quite interested in. I can see why you want to go over Fire Maneuver again with all the experience you guys got from Master Command. Yeah, that is how I'm feeling. That's definitely how I'm feeling. Oh, that's cool. Nico made some new emblems to put in the next update for free. So you added a Prussian one, Austrian, a couple British ones. French one. I thought we already had this one. So I'll ask him about that. Got some new Russian ones. That's good. An HRE one. That one's neat. Looks like it's Saxon. And then some generic emblems. That's cool. That's cool. Why did you decide to have Attacking Forts be a map event instead of an actual battle? Because of engine? Yeah, primarily engine limitations. Mr. Ushu, the issue is that the battles are not 3D. The models are it's basically 2.5D. It's a flat plane. So the actual battle map is completely like the terrain. It looks like this, and then you have models of soldiers that can stand on top of that flat plane. But if a guy like this is on a hill, the hill looks like this, and the flat plane that he's standing on is just marked as a different type of terrain, so it's color coded, and then they get an elevation bonus, but they're not actually standing on a hill. So if you had a siege with walls, big walls and fortifications, and you had trenches, like, you can't model that at all. It doesn't even work. And the other thing I'll say, too, is I know this is kind of dumb, but in real life, you don't just, like, walk up to a fort and then charge in. Like, most sieges, you sat around bombing it for months or weeks or sometimes years until they surrendered or starved or sallied to try to fight you. But it's kind of rare. I mean, that happened, but it's kind of rare to like just mass charge everybody into a siege. It's just not really as common. So not only from a historical perspective, it's just not a very common thing that happened, but from an engine perspective, the game is flat, so you can't really have people standing on elevation. But yeah, with the Victorian period, I just wonder like what the campaign should be. One other idea I had for the campaign is I've been drawn to a 1700s game idea, which I don't want to do right now because we just did the 1700s. But in that 1700s game idea, I was telling you guys a little bit about this, that it'd be like a Mount & Blade game where you physically travel on the map and you go to towns and you take on contracts and maybe you start a military career or you try to overthrow an area or something like that. But you have two layers. You just have the map of like almost a cartoonish map of Europe where it's kind of abstracted that you're physically moving around on, just like Mount & Blade, right? And then you go into battles, and that's kind of the 2 layers. And I wonder for a Victorian game if we'd want 3 layers like this, where you have more of a global geopolitical map that's very light. And then you have the regional map, just like in Master Command, where you travel around kind of a more abstracted region. And then you have your battle system. Or if we should try to consolidate these 2 and not try to do 3. There's pros and cons to both. Like, it's arguably, there's some complication in doing 3 separate layers that all have to be fun and simulated, which is maybe feels a little bit messy. It doesn't feel like a very elegant solution. But if you do 2, it's also really damn hard to like simulate an entire continent with all the armies moving around and stuff. That's pretty ambitious. So that's also pretty tough and a little awkward. And it's also maybe a bit weird as a Victorian general to be walking around. Like, you would take a railroad. You'd go on a train. It's the mid 1800s is not about adventuring and like walking around, unless you're talking about like the interior of Africa. But I don't think that makes for a very compelling game to be entirely centered around walking around Central Africa. That's not that could be a DLC, but that's not a game I'm making. That's not the base game. So I feel like this map, this abstracted map, helps to say like, oh, you want to go to that region. You're just there because you would take a railroad, take a train there, and now you're in that part of the map. So. Yeah, I don't know. Would you guys want something that's more like maybe a bit more gamey and more abstract to just try to do 2 layers, or to do the 3 layers to have like a small geopolitical layer, and then you have like your campaign region. So another example would be like you're sent to the Peninsula campaign. That's the campaign you've embarked on to try to gain political influence or whatever. And then you go and you have a whole map with a series of battles. So like the 7 days campaign, is that what it's called? 7 days battles? That's the end part of the Peninsula campaign. But like, look how many battles are fought in such a small area like this, that like you'd have a procedural region where you fight all those little battles that kind of like abstractly comprise of the 7 days battles campaign or the Peninsula campaign. But if it was directly on the map itself, it's a little harder to get that level of detail. You're probably not going to do that. Like, to walk to the peninsula, look how tiny it is. So your army would kind of be big and abstracted. You kind of have like Mountain Blade Civil War mod campaign. Like, look at how this game does it with 2 layers. There's actually a Civil War mod for Mountain Blade that actually exists. And look at the map. Do we have a map for it? Maybe I could find a video, a screenshot of someone playing it. Gosh, there's no videos of someone playing it. Maybe this one? Yeah, look at this. So in this one, the guy's actually walking around the map. But look at this, for example. Look how close Manassas, Fredericksburg, Richmond, Petersburg, Williamsburg, Mechanicsville, Alexandria, D.C., Harper's Ferry. And your army is this size. So this is the Civil War. So it's a little weird, I think. It's a little harder. Versus like, this is the region you're fighting across. You're going to zoom into it, and we're going to generate a whole campaign area to fight in, kind of, So I could see that maybe being a better way to do it. But, yeah. Let me read what you guys say. In terms of 3 layers versus 2 layers, maybe have it where when you're zoomed out, you have 3 layers, and when you're zoomed in, it goes down to 2. Yeah, something like that could work. We were actually talking about that yesterday. So it could work. Simulating armies would work better in a 3-way system. As it increased performance, you can select a region, travel by train, and go. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Seeing the model list, people do Lord of the Rings, yeah. If you're doing multiple continents, do the 3 layers, but then an intermediate map needs to be big enough to keep the sandbox element if the goal was to create a sandbox. Yeah. Yeah, the mod is cool, but Abe Lincoln feels like the king of America. A system built on this period in the vein of Mountain Blade would be epic. Like the color incorporates strategic nation owns. Just checking the Korean. Yeah, that is a cool visual effect. I don't know how that would be relevant to this, though. always like the idea of strategic movement logistics. When armies enter a region, it scales down to a skirmish reconnaissance phase with lots of low battle commitment and recon. Yeah, that's neat. The East Coast are very close, but the further west you go, the more spread out it was. Yeah. You have a similar issue that takes place in like the Crimean War, where it's a war against all of Russia, right? But the whole war is fought. Not only is the whole war fought, or just about the whole war fought, is in the Crimea, right? But not only that, that is the whole war, where all the battles are. You have the Battle of Inkerman, the Battle of Alma, the Battle of Malakoff, the Battle of Balaclava, the Battle of the Great Redan. That's all within this area, right? So if you had a map like Mountain Blade or something, and you have this giant Sevastopol, you'd walk up to it and fight like one battle there, and then it's not so bad. But I'm just saying, like, it's a bit harder to like make it feel like you're actually in these Victorian wars, because it moving around on the map feels kind of like, it feels a bit antiquated. Like moving around on the map feels like something you would fit in like an adventuring game, like a medieval game or a colonial game or something like that. My question is, what would be the consequence for your choices to play out with the AI or computer reactions? I think if you were to do the 3-layer system, we wouldn't be simulating what's happening in all the other regions. You could probably just say, hey, in some other region there's a fight going on, and we wouldn't actually be tracking all those armies and everything with like tons of characters. We would just say like, oh, this side won, that side lost. Maybe there'd be some other minor factors that would play into that. Maybe you could impact that in some minor ways. I haven't really thought about that too much. But yeah, you'd have just like some basic simulation going on the grand strategic layer, on the global map layer. I don't know, though. I've thought more about the zoomed in stuff than I have. Like, I think, truthfully, the way I felt, that the thing that's been difficult for me is a game that has like the Mountain Blade campaign, but set in the 1700s, where you walk around, you take on contracts, you just visit towns, you raid them, you find convoys and stuff. That mechanically sounds very fun, very intuitive, and very straightforward. Like, everything's just on the one map. You just build the game. You know what, I can visualize what that game looks like. But I don't want to do another 1700s game again 2 times in a row with the same combat and everything. It just feels a little bit like it doesn't feel right. Like I'm not that excited about it. But the Victorian period, I'm really excited about that. The battles sound really fun too, and the uniforms and the units, and it sounds like it could be really, really cool. But then what do you do to reconcile, like, the 1700s campaign doesn't really fit in the Victorian period walking around the map. It feels a little bit weird. But doing a 1700s game where you're walking around doesn't fit. It doesn't feel as compelling as a Victorian game where we get to explore just a really fresh period with really fresh combat mechanics and just something really truly it's just super interesting to me. So that's been my dilemma. It's like, what do you do to kind of compromise on those two, or like make something that's compelling in both regards? And I haven't given it too much thought, truthfully, because I've just been on my break. But that's been my dilemma, I think. Would you be able to secure peace deals and change borders? Also in this game, would the enemy armies take damage from terrain just out of view? Yeah, I think on a zoomed in level, I think the AI should be playing by similar rules that the player is. So I don't like in the current master command that the enemy doesn't have to like recruit. They don't have to worry about attrition. They don't have to worry about any of those things. So yeah. In terms of securing peace deals and stuff, I think it'd be from the perspective of just being a general. So probably not. But maybe if the player like ranked up enough, they would gain enough influence in the world that, or in their country, I mean, like maybe you would become the secretary of war, and you could still command battles and have your army, but you could even like influence the nation in some ways. Like think of like Bismarck. Like Otto von Bismarck is a statesman, right? And a chancellor. But if you look up like Battle of Sedan, Napoleon and Bismarck are there. So imagine ranking up to a rank like Bismarck, being on the battlefield, but you're also managing some of the state's diplomacy, just in a very light way. Like, I don't want to make a Paradox game or make a big Total War game, but just like have a little like piece of UI that lets you do minor amounts of influence. Maybe that could work. I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it too much, but yeah. Starting off in the early 1800s, I don't think so. OH, I think it loses the interest for me. Like, I like the mid 1800s and the Victorian period because of these wars and these units and the technology. I'm very driven by that. 1820s is just as interesting as doing another 1700s game where it's like it's just musket warfare. You don't have any of these uniforms or wars. You don't have the Civil War. Doing the Civil War in our style with our camp management and stuff, that'd be fun as hell. I really love that. But doing everything before all the exciting stuff kicks off is not as interesting to me. That being said, I don't want to zoom into one war and try to reenact it. I don't really like that idea. But 1820s to 1870s, yeah, like I think I would set it though within one military career. I studied certain historical figures like Grant, who was born in 1822. He was active since 1846, serving in the Mexican-American War, and then worked up to the Civil War. But many of these figures, look when they're active: 1846, 1848, 1838, 1834, 1842, 1860, 1857, 1829. So a lot of these guys are like really starting around 1840 and then ending in 1870s, 1870s, 1860s, 1880s, 1890. So you probably want to end it in the mid 1870s or 1880 or something like that. Yeah, I would start it with the Mexican-American War. Like, this is the chart that I drew out. I'd probably start it right there. And then all of these characters here who once led nations and armies, they were active during these bars here, these colored bars. So you'd probably want to start it right around like here-ish or like there. Even right there. That's 1840s. And then you could probably cut it off like right there at like 1880. So 1880, 1840. That's kind of like the span of what some real people did. This is like an actual generation or a career that other people had. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it'd be neat if you started in 1830, so you could even have the Texan Revolution, but I don't know about that. Showing them the stuff we talked about last week. Yeah, a little bit, Kaiser. I'm just teasing a little bit. Nothing too official. It's just for fun mainly. But I like the 3 layers idea. I actually love the Battle Brothers Mountain Blade field to the campaign map at MoC. Yeah. Football manager with guns. Yeah. I think it'd be far more plausible to do like 1859 than 1836. Yeah, it could be, Daniel. It could be. I think it would be fun to start it around the Mexican-American War because you would start your career around the same time that guys like Grant were, and then you could end it toward the 1870s when guys were ending their career like Grant or Garibaldi and things like that. So I like that span. Back to the American Civil War idea. Would a Mexican-American War section work as a prologue? Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm thinking. Something that allows you to build your character, command some regiments. That's exactly right. Yeah. I wouldn't even think of it of like acts, having an act system, because the 3-act structure was like very much in the same vein as like a roguelike game. But I would think of this as like you build a career over a long period, and you could have you pick a career in America, and you have these like wars that could maybe you have like a checkbox for historical mode where nations have a higher bias to go do historical wars. But you could even like start as America. Maybe they don't go to war with Mexico, or maybe they start a war with it. I don't know. But it'd be very basic kind of diplomacy and simulation on a grand level. And you're just a general. So we don't have to worry about making a big grand strategy game where you're building buildings and infrastructure and building a navy and doing all these things. That's too ambitious for us. But just being a character, being a general and living in this world and being sent off to different campaigns and nations are going to war, and maybe you gain enough influence as a commander in America that you pressure Congress and you kind of like start a little war with Canada or something. Because think of even like how the Mexican-American War started in real life. It was started through provocation on the border. It was kind of a fabricated war. So imagine you got to a position where you could influence because you're such a high-level general that maybe you provoke a war. Or, like you could do fun things. And it'd be very basic, right? You spend influence points to provoke something and build up that career and build more power even more. So that could just be something on the side that I think would be interesting to think about. Wouldn't be a main mechanic or anything, but just something to think about. That's all. But yeah, the real question is like, how many layers do we want, and like what amount of emphasis do we want on each layer, and that sort of thing. I remember reading an alternate history book where there was an international incident that ended up with France and Napoleon III getting involved with the American Civil War. Yeah, that's interesting. You could definitely have that. Like, imagine being a career officer in France and having enough influence to provoke something to get involved. Technically, France invaded Mexico at this time, and that almost provoked the U.S. going to war, but they were in their own war, of course, in the Civil War. But there's so much crossover to, like, the fact that Britain invaded Crimea to defend Protestantism against, like, the churches being threatened with Russia and the Ottomans, but, like, Britain got itself involved. That already is far-fetched, the fact that Britain got involved in that. So the fact that these nations do these expeditions or these long wars to try to police areas, like, as a career officer, I could imagine each playthrough you're sent to different fronts and things that didn't happen historically but could have happened, and that makes it a sandbox. That's, you know, one person's doing a American playthrough where they got sent over to France to defend against a German invasion, and another person's doing an Ottoman playthrough where they were sent as an advisor to go advise in Russia because Russia's doing a border war against Prussia or something. You know, like, you could just, those things are interesting, and there could be a mixture of historical events or focuses in the game, but I can imagine those random events happening being interesting to kind of shake things up. So I don't know. I noticed you folks were looking at Grand Tactician. Have you seen that? Yeah, I know the Whiskey and Lemons DLC. The thing is, not to claim like that I was already thinking about it or whatever, but the Whiskey and Lemons thing, I have had the idea of being a career officer and just being in a war, but you're just an officer rising up the ranks and building a career. I've had that idea for, like, I don't know, like 8 years now. I've only fleshed it out maybe 4 years ago, but I've known about that. I mean, I got that idea primarily from Mountain Blade, and then thought about what that would look like in, like, a more Total War style game. And I've always been compelled by that premise. That's what I think Master Command truly is. But yeah, Whiskey and Lemons is a great example of another game doing that same concept. Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought has a naval prestige, and you lose prestige, they will sack you. Yeah, I'll definitely have to try that game out, because from what you guys are saying, it has similar ideas that we could definitely look into. If India, China, Japan, and the Far East was added along with the Ottomans, you know those places are known for deep numbers. How will that work? What do you mean by that, deep numbers? What does that mean? Didn't Even Fire Maneuver was supposed to have a game mode similar to that concept? That's right. That is correct. I had a career mode idea where you'd be sent over to different regions and stuff. So I've been thinking about this for a very long time. You're absolutely correct, though, that we had the career mode idea for Fire Maneuver. We even, like, confirmed it at one time and then quickly canceled it. But yeah, I've always thought about doing something like that. But I don't know, is that exciting to you guys? Is that compelling enough? Is that like a fun fantasy for a game? I would just hope I would make something that people would be excited about and want to play and kind of build off of what we've already done. So I don't want to make something that's totally against what people are interested in. I don't know. I think, though, generally Master Command is all about being a general, though. However, we can, like, make our own version of a Total War or a Paradox game or whatever, but those games are always predicated on you being an omnipotent controller who runs everything. Whereas I think the spirit of Master Command is, like, how can you simulate and immerse a person of just being in that role as a commander? What does a career look like as a commander? You know how you have, like, card shop simulator or cleanup crew simulator? Like, what would it look like? Not to be a simulator game, I don't really want to do that, but just, like, what would it look like to really think about being a career officer and rising up the ranks and being involved in wars and even the other responsibilities and duties that a general might do or other things in their life. And I think that's interesting to me. Sounds interesting. I personally wouldn't mind some politics and some political maneuver. Yeah, I think there's room to put a little bit of politicking in there. especially through DLC. I can imagine DLC slowly making that grand strategic map more and more in depth until you've got like a full like sandbox going on. That's quite interesting. I don't know. Just something to think about. Next week I might come up with a brand new idea. So everything I say doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't mean that that's what we have to do, or that's what I'm committed to doing. I don't believe that's true at all. Legionary's life had something similar. Yeah. What's your take on Napoleonic War with a career mode? I think the issue with that is it's already being done and developed by Grand Tactician. So I don't really see room for us to go in and do the exact same thing. Because Grand Tactician, they did Whiskey and Lemons, which is a career officer mode. And they're making a Napoleonic War game where you're probably going to have a mode to be a career officer. And then we're making a game about the Napoleonic Wars about being a career officer. So we're both making, there's actually really, it's only them and us pretty much in this space that remain. Ultimate General used to be here, but they're gone. So why would I, of all of human history, why would I pick the exact same thing they're doing? So I'm not really even, not interested too much in doing that. I will look into this game if they do a similar thing. If anybody has game recommendations to get some inspiration, I like to play games for research purposes, to just look at how other, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Not to say I'd copy anything, but like, it's definitely nice to build out a toolbox of game design. I was even playing like Hades, and there's some things I was inspired by in playing Hades that I could apply to building a strategy game. So there's all sorts of things to build out your toolbox to just, I like to play lots and lots of games and really understand how what I don't like about things, what I do like about things, and ways that I would do things better, and yeah. Yeah, what I want to do before I leave today is I just want to get some encounters, doctrines, and skills that you guys recommended that I think are good ideas. So we're just going to put them down. Let's see here. Encounters. Let's start with officer traits. So patriotic increases the effectiveness from one nationality while I don't know if I like this one, because how does it know what nationality to choose? Like your base nationality or your foreign nationality? I think that one's a bit hard to implement, so I'm not a big fan of the patriotic one. Reduce resource consumption. I think we already have that, don't we? I don't really like this one. I have an idea for a doctrine. If you do, you could put it into the doctrine ideas, because I'm going to be going over these a little bit. I think the Legionary Life one made a game where you're more of an officer called Never Second in Rome. Okay, I'll check that out. Ah, interesting. I'll write that down. Greedy, okay, awesome. Big eater. I think that'd be better as like gluttonous or something, and it would increase the provision consumption, but it boost morale. So everyone's happy because they're getting lots of food, but they're taking up a lot of food. That could be interesting. Is this for the new game idea or MoC? This is for MoC. I might do it off the stream because I want to eat. I would like to eat, but before I go, I will chat a little bit longer. When we do officer traits, we try to keep them as adjectives. Yeah, exactly, like personality traits, at least for now. I think in the next game, I would probably do a difference between personality traits as adjectives and then command traits. Like, I think you could have someone with a trait called, like, prepared, and that guy, it could give him a better, like, defensive stance or something like that. And I think personality traits would be, like, naturally generated. You can't steer them. And then, like, command traits could be something that you could actually have more influence on. I think maybe separating those two would be good. Talking about innovations in the Victorian period, a weapon variant between cap and ball and needle fire could be tube primers or various odd ammunition variants. Yeah, that's interesting. It could be cool to like equip someone with Minier balls to give them better range, but maybe it's more expensive or something. Honestly, Mr. Mushu, if you want to come up with ideas, put it into the threads on Discord if you can. I wouldn't put it in the Discord chat because I'm not really going to be influenced by those very much. Expeditions Rome. I'll check that out. I remember hearing about this coming out. You have a party of Praetorians. Yeah, I don't know if that's something that I'd be interested in terms of like how it relates. It's cool there's 90 people here. How's everybody doing? It's nice to see so many people. I feel bad ending the stream so soon. I wonder if there's anything else before I leave. Soldier's Life, but what? Soldier's Life, what it would do, I don't know, but I like the name. A trait that helps movement in water and rough terrain. That could be cool. Hype for the movie Young Washington. I didn't know if that was a movie or a series. That'd be cool. It is a film. Okay, interesting. Good. How about you? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. It's a movie and it looks so bad. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Young Washington. I don't like that name because I just think of like Young Sheldon. I don't like the name for it. Just reminds me of that. Did I watch Der Tiger? No, I did not. Der Tiger. I did not watch that. Odyssey. Yeah, Odyssey doesn't look rough. Or it doesn't look good. Hold Fast. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Hold Fast. I used to play Mount & Blade Napoleonic Wars when I was young. But by the time I got older, they did Hold Fast, and I had already kind of moved on from those games. But I used to play... That's what I used to play. Back in the day. But I never really got into Hold Fast. The Spyglass Sniper. Yeah, that's great. Let's make a Napoleonic game and add that as an item. Have I played Wildermyth? No, I have not. Damn, I'm always so jealous when I see a game. Or not jealous, but maybe even just more surprised. I'm always shocked, I guess, when I see like 95%. That's crazy. I saw a game the other day that was 99% positive. Isn't that nuts? To make a game that 99% of people who played liked it? That's crazy. Of course, people who refunded it. Not everyone leaves a review. But, yeah, it's always crazy to see. How successful is MoC? I'm pretty happy, Oliver. Honestly, it outperformed my expectations, so I'm pretty happy with how it is. I'm just really trying to feel like everything finished all at once. So the game did well, but I'm like feeling so empty right now because the game's out, it's done, and I'd like to kind of have a little break from it, just a small one. And I'm done with my YouTube channel, so I'm done with that too. And I don't have a new YouTube channel I'm planning, obviously, and I don't have a new game I'm working on either. So then I kind of feel a little directionless. So despite its success, I should be excited about it, but I just feel a little bit like I got shot into the ocean and I'm just like looking around, it's all empty, and I'm like, oh, okay. Feels like I've just been flushed out. And yeah, it's a weird feeling. I don't know. I've never felt this way before. It feels a little like, yeah, vacation. I don't know if vacation would help. I don't know if it would. I actually really don't know. Strategy game about the warlord period in 1920s. I've seen that, Rise of the White Sun. I've actually played his other game too before. I'm not even really looking for just general game recommendations, I guess. I'm looking, I was asking more for games that fit in line with what I was sort of concepting a bit. But get a job at McDonald's. Yeah, I should, man. No, I don't know. I don't know why I feel. Has anyone ever felt that way before? It's just a weird. Be nice to have a hobby redirect. It gets tedious when all your free time's eaten up by your project. Yeah, I think I really made my life. I think a couple things are like I made my life working on the game, and the game is out. So then my life is like, there's like no. I have no purpose anymore right now, and I don't know what to do with that. And then the other thing is that I've always called myself the Armchair Historian. My Discord name is the Armchair Historian, right? But I ended my channel. So that part of my identity is gone in a way. And my game, which was my identity, is done. But the thing is, I have lots of hobbies. I do have hobbies, but I play them or do them, and I feel good temporarily because it makes me forget about other things. Like I even did a run the other day, and while you're running, you're not thinking about anything. But the moment you I stopped, I immediately just felt kind of empty again. So I don't know what to do about that. It's a very weird thing. I felt similarly before, but like usually it lasts like a weekend, and you just give yourself some time to recharge and you're back. But I did 3 weeks off for winter break, about 3 weeks. And then I came back and I just felt completely burnt out still. I don't know what... Yeah. I don't know what fixes that. I don't know if anyone else has dealt with that before, but it's a difficult thing. Again, not to make it like a... this is my therapy. Could just be the winter lack. I think part of this does hurt. You can't go out. Sometimes I'd love to just sit on the deck and just sit out in the sun, and you can't do that. But I don't think that would fix my feelings. But it definitely does feel worse when you're stuck in your house and it's freezing. And that's not a fun feeling, I think. Yeah, honestly, Falk, this is, or Kaiser, this is what I feel there. I do have 2 ego deaths at the same time. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm supposed to... Yeah, I don't know. I wish I didn't... I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I'm searching for other people who have felt that way because it's difficult, specifically with game design, I suppose, too. I looked that up, but everybody who's talking about it talks about playing video games, not having made one. Finished one. Gamble. Dude, OH, I think you're onto something, man. Go to Vegas, bet it all. And if I bet everything, and I'm completely poor, I'll use that as motivation to have money again. And then that'll be how I get my drive back. That's a great idea, I think. Just started back at work after 4 weeks. It's too long when self-employed. Feels good to get back to work. I wish I felt that way, dude. The thing is, I felt this way before. I feel sometimes you do a vacation, toward the end of the vacation, you're like, gosh, I just want to get back to work. Like, I'm excited to like get back into things. And I feel a bit like broken right now because I've taken breaks and I've had weekends, or I'll play a game or something, and I just immediately feel bad again. I don't know what that means. It's bizarre. I don't know. Sad we never got an Easter Rising video. Yeah, honestly, Steven, there's a lot of videos that I wish I could have done that we just never had the time to do and never really worked out. I felt useless not doing anything. Yeah. I think I would feel the same way. Even when I was taking some time off over December, I felt a bit bored. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Time for New Game Plus. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? I think it's a bit of guilt not being constructive with our time. The honeymoon period of a long break wears off. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I felt before. I felt that before. I've never felt the way I felt now before, though, and I don't know what that means. Like, my motivations just to do anything, dude, to do anything is completely gone. I don't even think, can I be honest as well? I've spent time with my wife. I spent a whole weekend. I saw my mom and I saw my brother. I worked out and did and exercised. I've cooked and cleaned. I've taken my dog on long walks. I've gone down and done painting as a hobby. I was learning a new piano song. I just saw a friend over Christmas break, just a friend, not family, and we played a board game together. So I've done all of these things, like whether it has to be an outside activity. No. It has to be with a social. It has to be social. Wait, it has to be with family. What about non-family? What about something just by yourself? Just relax, play a video game, or it has to be exercise, or no exercise, just fully. Any of these things. None of it does anything. Usually it does, right? Usually, dude, I'll have a weekend where I'm like, gosh, having nothing to do for 2 days, really just getting back into hobbies and having a refresh. I feel great getting back into my work on Monday. Yeah, I'm not fucking taking some pills, dude. I'm not taking some pills. But have you and Kelly talked about family planning when you have serious life progression? Yeah. I don't know. Take a moment to appreciate. Yeah, I don't know. Time to fix F&M. Yeah. Sorry to do this. I think I'm going to regret having said all this on a live stream, but I have not really talked to many people about it. So it's nice to talk to you guys because you guys have played the game, so you know what I've been working on. And I just want to talk about it just for a little bit at least, because I don't know what to do about it. And I also wonder with a large audience if anyone else has experienced that, but it's very weird. I think when you work hard, you build the habit of thinking forward to work more, and it can be really hard to shake and live in the present. Yeah. Well said. What did Mark say? Yeah. If I had to like really think about part of it, it's I think part of it is, well, Kaiser, part of this is I think I don't have as much of a routine anymore because I'm not working on the game in the same capacity in the same way. And the game's done. Really what happened is the moment the game finished, I like this. Parasocial relationship. Instead of the fan thinking they personally know the creators, the creator thinking they know the fans. That's true, man. This is my parasocial relationship with you guys. Oh no, Laszlo, I would love to. I think in a couple years I'm going to have kids, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I used to even think sometimes that, oh gosh, I hope my wife just raises the kids for me for the most part, and I can just focus on my work, and I don't want to be interrupted. I don't want to be the stay-at-home dad, and that's so demoralizing and like. Then my perspective changed, and I won't be doing this. I won't be being a stay-at-home. I won't be a stay-at-home dad, but you almost switch your perspective where it's like that would be a luxury. I would love to spend time with, like, and raise a family, raise my. That's like, you kind of realize a bit that you've been conditioned in society where having a family and focusing on kids and stuff is a bad thing and lacks virtue, and the good thing to do is to focus on work and build a career. But you know what? That's a very, not to get into politics, and this is not it's not political, I promise, but like it's a very left-wing thought to, like, usually more traditional conservatives think about family and stuff, and the left-wing thing is like liberating yourself from those responsibilities and not thinking so traditionally. But it's almost an anti-left-wing thing to do that, because who are you actually? Okay, let's abandon the family and do something else with our lives and focus on career. Well, you're building your career for some other faceless corporation. So you're giving yourself and your life to a corporation, and that's the liberating, like, progressive idea. No, it's not. That's like, you've been tricked. Like the liberating thing is having your family and like being you're self-sufficient with your group. So that to me is more. So anyways, it's not a political thing. I'm not talking about political parties or voting for or politicians or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it's interesting that that perspective is had in a more liberal and progressive thought. But like, I think it is more progressive to not commit your life to a corporation. That's kind of a more progressive outlook, I would think. Anyways, not to get into that or anything, but no, I completely agree, and my perspective's changed where I think my life will be, the purpose of my life will be derived from family and from the creations that we do with our studio, as like the creative pursuits from our video game, but also, and then the other half of that would just be from my family and raising a family. I'm really looking forward to that. But that's a couple years off. I'm not quite ready just yet. My wife just started her career like a couple months ago. Just started. She hasn't paid off her loans and things like I think she should have a few years to do that, because she's never even earned money for herself, because I won't dox anything, I don't want to, but the work she's entered required several years of school to do. And I won't say any more about that, but it took many, many years, and she's never even earned money doing that because of how long school takes. So I want to give her some time to do that and to actually have her life. And then I think in a couple years I'll be ready. But with regards to the way I feel, really what it boils down to, the two things is, if you ate steak one night, that's a luxury. That's great. It's good and you like it. But if you ate steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 years, and that's all you did nonstop, and your life was about eating steak, and then you stop. First, when you stop and your life was centered around eating steak, and now there's no more steak, your life is like, what do I do? Like, even you're like, what am I supposed to eat next? What am I doing? And even your body might like react to eating anything else differently and be, but then also, would you ever want to eat steak again? You're like, no, I don't, because I just did every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3. So it's a mixture of like being a bit directionless at the moment, now that it's all done. And but also you don't want to work on it anymore. But the only way to feel purpose again is to work on it or something different. But that puts you in a bit of a bind. And anything else I do is a momentary distraction. So, yeah, I don't know. American culture is really bad about work-life balance. Yeah, it's also just, this is not political at all, and I think I think at least I'm mature enough. You guys should be mature enough. I think everybody is, to not turn this into like anything, like it's just interesting with certain aspects of feminism, which are promoting a woman's liberation and autonomy, but some of that autonomy and liberation is to go work for a corporation every hour of every day. But that's not what, like, do you like, I don't know, that some of that maybe is that being hijacked by our corporate, like I would imagine it's more liberating for you to build a family and spend time with your group, and you don't give your time away to some fucking corporation that doesn't care about you. That's not a very, yeah. So, but anyways, we don't have to talk about that, whether that's a liberal or conservative. Fuck that. We don't have to say that. Just culturally speaking, generally, the accepted thing is that you should dedicate yourself to your work, and that should be, which I have, and I've enjoyed doing that. I think in your 20s, especially in your early to mid 20s, go ahead and take risks and work every day and just see what you can come up with and create. And I think that is still virtuous to do that, and you can maybe find something that you're passionate about. But when you're older, you shouldn't be 50 years old working every hour of every day, and that's the pinnacle of your life. Like that's not a, anyways, I won't get into it. Whatever. we'll stop talking about this. Yeah, it's nice for you to say things like that. I'm not gonna push that stuff off. I'm excited to have kids and everything. I am took the positive option of family, and now is a sizable amount of population and is miserable. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into this conversation because it's not. This is a video game channel, and we're doing a video game stream, and there's no use in. Obviously, I'm gonna piss someone off, and someone's gonna piss me off, and it's just not. Let's just not talk about this subject. But it's interesting, at least, and I think it doesn't have to be political, but it ends up going that direction. I don't think we should talk about that. Anyways. Yeah. What's next for Master Command? I think that what I think we should do is I want to take the January roadmap and put out an announcement and maybe say that it should come in mid-February, because I think we shouldn't rush it out. I feel like with what I've been talking about, where I'm a bit burnt out, I think if I rushed it, it's going to end up being bad, especially for messing with the AI. Because part of the roadmap has to do with AI changes, right? And I don't want to rush that in 2 weeks. It hasn't been play tested. So I probably want to go mid-February, which isn't much of a delay, really. It just gives it a little bit more time to make sure the update's actually good. And then I want to do a new roadmap, and I want to talk with my team and put out another expansion probably next quarter. That's what I think I want to do. Yeah, the Imperial Decree was giant. It was way too big. So I think we definitely made this roadmap a little too ambitious. So I want to space things out just a little bit and just make sure. What I don't want to do is I don't want to rush out updates. Like, do we desperately need to rush out updates that could potentially break the balance of the game? I don't think so. So I don't really want to do that. Some gaming suggestions. That's cool. I'll look into those. December was a huge update. Yeah, I think we had a huge update in December. I don't think we need to do anything massive right now. Yeah. And OH, I appreciate that. I think you are being very helpful right now. I just want to slowly get back into things. Even today, I wasn't that productive. You know what I might do, which is easy? Why don't I, just so this stream wasn't me just complaining the whole time, which it has been for a little bit, at least the last 20 minutes was. I want to get in. I want to just make one map, or at least work on one today, and then we can continue chatting and we could talk about whatever we want to. But I at least want to start on one because that would be nice to put in the next update. I think we need a few more maps because last playthrough I did, I was thinking if there were just 5 or 6 more maps, it'd feel a little more fresh. I think. So yeah. You don't need to make updates as long as you don't go dark. Yeah, I wouldn't go dark. 6,000.3 point. Okay, so this needs to be upgraded. 0.3 F1. Okay. Install on the left, and then install editor on the right. Okay. And then, oh, that just updated. What the hell? As I opened it, it updated. I don't want 0.4. I just have to update this. 6,000.3, 0.3 F1. Yeah, I don't know where it went, so I'm going to have to go onto Unity archive and get it there. I don't know where it is. Give me 1 second. Hey, Tom, could you help me out real quick? I'll go on screen share.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me see. I opened up Unity Hub and it showed the version that you said, and then quickly flicked to 0.4 F1.
Yeah, I think they released some patch recently.
Okay. So if I go to the archive, I see.
Click on all versions. And control is the third option there.
This
actually.
one here, right? Okay.
So then click on install on the right. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I just have to update my Unity. That's all. What was Project Ruby? Project Ruby was basically what's it called? This was a Victorian strategy game. Kind of the one I was talking about a little bit earlier today, but it was a Victorian strategy game, and it was going to be like basically the Empire Total War campaign level of depth, which isn't very in depth, right? It's just serviceable enough, basically, but set in the Victorian world and covering the globe. And that was something that we wanted to work on at one point, but it was just a bit too ambitious. And I don't know if it's original enough. I don't know if it's that unique. Like, what, you're just going to make a repeat of Total War, but just in a new time period? That's not very... Yeah, it was an experimental thing from a while ago. But I think as a studio, we shouldn't be trying to just emulate other games and just remake them, kind of. I think we should kind of try to make our own identity. I think that's important. Might be a cool idea. Yeah. I don't think it's like Civ. It's more like Total War. People yearn for... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with maybe making a game that helps to fill a hole in the market that people have been wanting. But I feel weird about trying to make something that doesn't feel like it's doing anything that new, necessarily. There's also a point to be made that, like, we are 4 people, so maybe it's a bit much to say that you're going to make a game better than what an entire big multi-million-dollar studio made. So yeah, I don't know about that. Have you thought about reaching out to reenactor groups, wanting to find royalty-free fife and drum? I wanted to actually find that to just listen to, not to use in the game necessarily. Will you expand the team for the next game? I think we will probably hire like 1 or 2 people. I think. But I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. Ah, interesting. Option 1. No, I think this looks good. I don't even think we show this. We actually don't even show a short description. So in reality, it would just show the replenishment rate and the unit type under. I think that would be good. What staff would you need? I think I need programmers. I'll probably actually put out a job posting on this YouTube channel to hire programmers. I'll probably hire 2. I don't know when, but I'll probably hire 2. And they would have to know how to work in Unity specifically. And if someone knew ECS, I mean, that's a huge advantage as well. So if anyone knows anybody and knows ECS, I mean, that'd be huge. Hiring from your audience is a good idea. Yeah, I would like to hire directly from... I want someone who's actually interested in making these types of games. I don't want to hire someone who has no interest and they're just in it for the cash, because we're not rich, so we're not going to be able to pay you an amazing salary, and then you're just going to be miserable. So, but if someone... You know, if this was like their dream game and they're actually excited to work on this, then I think that's someone I would prefer. I've worked with plenty of people who have not been interested in what we're making, and it's not fun working with those people because it's just a drag. They're like miserable every day working on it, because it's not part of it is not that fun. There's tedious work that goes into this that isn't so engaging. But if you really like the game concept and the historical time period and you like what you're doing, then you will tolerate it. But if you don't, then you'll just be miserable, and that's not fun to work with those people, and they don't enjoy working with us. So what happened to Empanadas, a Rome 2 DEI mod guy? I don't know. He stopped. He kind of disappeared a little bit. A few playtesters did, but that's okay because the game's out. So I understand why they took a break. Gosh, I don't know why the install is like taking forever. Oh, it is complete. Whoops. How was I not looking at that? There, that's what we want. There we go. Yeah, our original team is dead. Yeah. A couple stragglers. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, OH. That always happens. Like, everything we've been testing and playtesting for, it's all out. It's all finished. The other thing is, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but Master Command, I think, is a game that's you're easily able to get burnt out from because it can get repetitive. And so if you've put in 100 hours into the game, I think you've got most of what you're going to get out of it. Which isn't a bad thing. If someone got 100 hours out of a game, I mean, that's... There's a lot of developers who make games that someone puts 2 hours into and they're already bored with it. But I think if you put 100 hours, or in Kaiser, you said you put 400 hours. I haven't touched it since the HRE DLC. I feel the same way, dude. And the thing for me, though, is I don't want to touch it anymore because I put thousands of hours. I can't even boot it up anymore. I have 330. Dude, how do you think I feel working on it? Like, I don't know. Can't get past Region 1. Thomas feels that way, too. Tom was saying, he's like, I can't play the game anymore because I've done everything in it. And which I don't think that's again, it's not a bad thing. If you were to play I have another dumb example, but if you played like the Call of Duty like if you played the Call of Duty single player campaign, you played it 100 hours in a row over and over and over again, would you want to open it up? Like, you played the game, you got everything you wanted to out of it. It achieved what it was meant to do. It's not meant to be a 1,000 hour or 10,000 hour experience. What the hell? Like, That's obviously not what the game is meant to be. So, um, I only like fucking around with the spreadsheet, balancing things. Yeah, I'm honestly even tired of this. Like my burnout of the game that you feel from playing it is kind of how I feel from developing it right now. At least right now, I think I can. With anything, you're gonna feel refreshed if you just give it some time. Just for the sake of exaggeration, if I spent 10 years and then look back on the project, it's going to be more refreshing 10 years from now than 1 minute from now, just using random increments of time just to prove the point. It's just like if you wait long enough for anything, you'll have interest in coming back to it again because you just give it some time. But if you play the same thing over and over and over and over again, it's going to get boring. It's the same case, to use my example I was giving earlier today, where if you ate the same meal 3 times a day, every day for 2 years, are you going to love it just as much the next day? Well, maybe a couple years pass and now you're ready to eat that meal again, but yeah. But that's totally fine. I think that's why probably a lot of playtesters are out, because they played a shit ton and they've been kind of burnt out of it for the most part. So that's fine. Will we ever see another game in the Arms Race franchise? Yeah, I will do another game. I think being burnt out MoC is what influenced my opinion for having the game in 18. Dude, that's how we're all feeling. We're like, we're so burnt out of this. Can we just get a completely different like change of scenery here? Like, let's get like breech loaded rifles and shit coming in, because that would refresh it, I think, a lot. So yeah, I think the game will give you like a solid 100 hours if you play through all the nations, you do the achievements and everything, and if you're motivated by that. And then once you finish it, then it's done. But that's totally fine. I played 30 hours of Hades and I'm pretty burnt out of that game. I don't really find myself as excited to open it up again. But that happens. So that's okay. A World War I game. Yeah, I don't know about World War I. I think World War I would be cool if a game like ended with it, so you built up to it. But having a game where the whole game is World War I and you're just sitting in a trench, then yeah, I don't know. Don't know about that. I don't know how you gamify World War I that much to make it fun. It's a pretty hard time period to do that with. It's just so static. And I finally got the project open. Yeah, OH, I'll let you know. I'll probably want people for the next game. I'll probably want some like design volunteers and stuff. But I won't have the budget to just start hiring people. Yeah, I just don't want to. You didn't say I had to do this, but I just don't want to start mass hiring and everybody's on payrolls, and then we start building this super ambitious game, and then we bankrupt it. We spend all of our money, and then it comes out, and then it earns less than the first game made, and then you're like, oh, what do we do? And then you lay off a bunch of people, and then I'm not falling into that trap. So yeah. Something like 1870 to World War I, get to experience pretty interesting range. I had an idea at one point to do a grand strategy game that was just focused on warfare. I guess you could say that's like Hearts of Iron a bit, but that would start in like the 1860s and then end in World War I. So it's purely about that ramp up from like linear warfare from like 1861 to 1918. But I don't have the budget or the team or anything to do to launch a global game. Would you create Sweden for Master Command? I think Sweden's on our to-do list, yeah. Sweden is on our to-do list at some point. Um, gosh. All right, I got my map editor opened up. I've not made a map in a while, so I'm not as burnt out from working on the map editor. Mountain Blade Battle Brothers feel to the campaign might be cool. Yeah, I've said honestly, Panza, that from a mechanical perspective, I think a game that has like a Mountain Blade style campaign is very engaging to me. But from a time period and like combat perspective, I really want something in the Victorian period. But those don't really mix well. Like a feudal adventuring game in the Victorian period is kind of an awkward combination. So then it's like, oh, how the hell do you do that? Gosh, it's been a while since I've opened up the map editor, really. There we go. I'm just going to build roads. I'm just going to do roads first. Should I do, maybe do one river? How do I want a river to go? I don't want player to corner camp. It's hard to come up with how I want to do a river. Maybe I'll do one that's more decorational. Ah, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I've already have maps with a lot of rivers that kind of do. Like I have one that splits the map in half. I have one that cuts it like this. I have one that goes like that on the left. I'm not quite sure. Make it like an empty plains map. I could do no rivers on it. I could do no rivers. We don't need rivers. Something else I thought would be cool is trying out a new texture. There's a mod called Between Empires, but Mountain Blade feudal system is problematic. Yeah, I actually I have seen that mod, and it's interesting. But it is a little awkward with the time period fitting into it, so I don't know. Someone added an AK-47, yeah. Yeah, rivers in Master Command are more like creeks. That's how they behave more. Let me get my textures. Garibaldi's probably the closest guy to a Mountain Blade adventurer. Yeah, I know. Yeah. He has a pretty cool, like, fantasy to fulfill. Sorry, I'm just grabbing textures that I need. That should be everything. Anyways, I kind of want to make the map use this. I've never done a map whose base texture looks like this. So this will have a unique, completely unique ground texture, which is more like, more rugged, as you can see there. Like overgrown grass. So I think that'd be interesting. And which maps have I made? I've made up to 14, so this would be map 15 large. Have I seen the Turn series? I've not. I don't know if I have that much interest in it, though. Just in general, I have not really been watching much TV. But, yeah, I don't know if I'm that interested in that. I don't know if I even really like historical shows or movies that much anymore. But that's just more generally, I just generally have some fatigue from shows and movies. I just can't find anything I'm interested in. And I'm almost like turning to books. I'm not a big reader, to be honest. But I did get a copy of the Lord of the Rings series, the trilogy. And I've been going through that, and I have been enjoying that. Especially if you ever listen to the audiobook too. Sometimes I put that on when I'm painting. And the guy who voices Gollum voices the whole audiobook, and he does a really good job too. That's been entertaining to listen to. It's like getting to watch the movies, but each movie is 40 hours. So you just get more detail and depth, and it's kind of fun. I like that. OH, I'm not a huge Warhammer guy. I don't really respect the universe. Which I know sounds kind of stupid. I think the futuristic one is definitely better than the old world one, but the old world one I have no respect for. It's just like it's a complete the old world one specifically is a complete parody of the actual world, and that's not fun. I think the thing is, Warhammer lore feels like it's laughing at you and laughing at the world, and you're supposed to laugh with that too. But why? What am I? I'm reading your book, or I'm playing your game, and you think this is stupid. You think it's all a big joke, and you think I should think it's a big joke too, and that's the fun part of it. But I should take it seriously. So what are we doing? Like it just. It's more the old world stuff I think is like that. It's all just a big joke. Oh, it's the Bretonians. They're not the British. They're the Bretonians. Ooh. Oh, and this ogre, its primary attack is that it shits all over everyone. It just shits over your enemies and throws up on them. Ooh, that's funny. And I don't know, dude. Okay, that's great. Awesome. But no, take it. It's grim dark. It's grim, take it seriously. But I'm gonna shit all over it. I don't know. That's more of what Total War has done to it, to be honest. But I just can't get into that as much. I at least appreciate in Lord of the Rings no one's shitting all over everybody. So like those are just good books, good stories. I like the lore of it. I think it's interesting. Warhammer's never been about being serious. It's about being wacky. That's the thing. I don't like that though. I'm not gonna read. If I want to read like a parody of something, that's fine. But I don't really like parodies, and I'm not gonna dedicate myself to parody. That's like being really into not James Bond, into Austin Powers. Like you're really, really into Austin Powers, which that's fine. I think Austin Powers is funny. I like Austin Powers, but I'm not taking it. I'm not like into the lore of Austin Powers, okay? And that's what I consider old Warhammer fantasy to be. So the Lord of the Rings mod for Attila. I saw that got released. I don't know. I've got to try that out at some point. I've got to try it out. Yeah, the thing is, if it's not a joke or parody, Dave, I don't know what it is because it's all just based on something else. Like, oh, these are like the pharaohs, but they're not. These are the Germans, but they're not. These guys are like dinosaurs or Native Americans, but they're dinosaurs. Or these guys are like the Chinese, but they're not. And even the names are like, what, Cathay? That is a name for China, and you called that China? Like, why not you just come up with something? Even some of the names of towns and cities are literally just real world places, which just seems like it doesn't. I think the one thing I respect with Lord of the Rings is like it's very imaginative, and the locations are very like, I don't know. Helm's Deep stands out a lot. Minas Tirith is really it stands out, and I like these locations, and they're very original. It's not real. It's clearly fantasy. So for me, if you're gonna be fantasy, just like actually, I would like a little more effort put into even the etymology of the certain words and the town names and stuff. I like that a lot. So there's nothing wrong, by the way, if you like this sort of thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't. My opinion is objective on this, or I don't even feel very strongly about it, to be honest. So if you like it, I'm not trying to like shit on something that that you guys like. I'm just saying for me, I already don't like fantasy, so trying to convince me to like this universe is it's a tough sell. The only fantasy universe I've ever been interested in is probably like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, which is a very cliche thing to say, but Star Wars mainly because I was a kid when I watched it, but also it's, you know, the thing I'll say about Star Wars in defense of it, people hate on like the prequels and stuff, but just to open this up, Geonosis battle, I guess. Like looking at like the design of the machinery and the tanks and the weapons and everything, I don't know. These are cool. I actually respect the aesthetics a lot of this. I don't even really care what the story is, but it's just the technology and the like the person who sat down to design this machine. I really respect the aesthetics of it. I care a lot about that. And even this is very iconic. Like the person who came up with the way that the speeders look and the way that I don't know, that I really appreciate that from a creative standpoint. And when I look at like this and I think, oh, these guys are orcs stolen from fantasy universes that they have nothing to do with. These are just giant ogres, and that's already a trope. It's very cliche, I think. Oh, these are vampires. Well, vampires already exist. But when you watch Star Wars, doesn't have vampires and ogres and stuff, you know? So I appreciate the creativity that goes into that a lot. What else do I want to do here? Maybe we'll just continue this road. And maybe this will go... kind of think it should go like this. Yeah, I like that. Which again, I respect the 40K stuff more than the old world things. But I think the old world is just a pure parody. It's everything that which is my that's my preference when it comes to things like fantasy. I like the aesthetics of things, and I like originality. I want it to look like something I've never seen before. That's all. But generally, I'm not even a big fan of fantasy. My microphone's a little quiet. Let me check the volume. People have said that before. What is it at? 51? It should be at 70. That's where it should be. I think that should sound better. Have you heard of Trench Crusade? Yeah, I've heard that it's been a disaster and that a bunch of people who ordered stuff ended up not getting what they received, or it's broken, and I've heard it's a giant controversy. Iron Harvest. Yeah, you guys are all trying to get me into these fantasy things. I don't like any fantasy at all. I don't know. Like I just don't like it. I'm the wrong person to convince about liking some fantasy world. I just am not a big fan of it. Max, I'm sorry I've ignored your question. I know you've asked it a lot about Pike and Shot. The reason I was ignoring it a bit, or I just didn't address it, was I spoke a lot about it early in the stream, but I know you probably weren't there for that. I'm not a big fan of Pike and Shot stuff. Yeah. Oh, wait, you say I'll never do it? I don't know if I'd never do it. I don't know if I would never do it, but right now, I'm not interested in it. I just don't feel that interested. Which doesn't mean like 5 years. I mean, who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, I want to go do something. The thing is, I would be interested. Like, I actually do have genuine interest if a game was... If it had the Middle Ages, like late Middle Ages setting, and then you got to transition into guns. That would be cool. That to me would be fun. I think it'd be fun to build like a medieval army and then start equipping units with guns and then experience the evolution and change. That to me is more interesting. But if it's just Pike and Shot, I'm not really interested. I think the aesthetics, by the way, too, I do care about the aesthetics. I think the aesthetics of that's already what Medieval 2 does. Yeah, that is what I would be more interested in, though. But they already do it, so why do I need to do it? That's why I haven't done it. What's it called? Even the aesthetics are they're not very compelling to me. I don't like... There's a lack of uniformity. There's not many iconic units or uniforms, in my opinion. I mean, there are, like, even, like, you could say that the Winged Hussars are a Pike and Shot era unit. But for me, from what I've seen, it's not very as compelling to me. There's something iconic about a red coat, or about a Civil War soldier, about the Pickelhaube in the 1860s, or about a World War II German tank, or a Roman soldier in the era of antiquity, or a stereotypical Middle Ages knight or longbowman, or a Scottish pikeman or something. These are like iconic units to me that I'm like, oh, those are compelling and interesting. But I don't see a unit of the Pike and Shot era that I go, oh, they look so cool. Because there's just kind of a general lack of uniformity, and I don't know. I'm not interested. I'm just not interested in it. And yeah, that's all. That's all I got to say. It doesn't mean it's a bad setting. I of course will always clarify, and it should be obvious enough, but some people don't know that it is. That just because I don't like something, or I'm saying I don't like something, doesn't mean it's bad. I'll be clear when I say that this is wrong, or that is right, or that is better, versus me saying I just don't find it compelling. That's just from my perspective. That's all. And I don't even really find the warfare, the tactics, that engaging as much. But that part is more out of ignorance. I don't know a lot about the combat. Like, I don't study many battles and stuff from it in a way that I have for the American Revolution or the Napoleonic Wars or in the Victorian Age or even World War I or World War II. So, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to make a map that was like a big valley, but I think this one's kind of improvised, and I'm happy enough of how it's developed. I don't like giving the players a lot of places in the corners to hide. So I would almost be willing to kind of bring this up a bit. So you'd have to at least move up. Same with this, like, it looks a little less realistic. At least this is so off the map that you can't possibly go there. That'll be cut off in the fog. I'm gonna do that. This at least brings you, look, you have kind of a closer... In fact, I might swap these so your front kind of bulges outward more offensively. because I don't like when the player goes defensively. I want you to pull your forces out. I think I'm happy with this. This is a good layout. I'm pretty happy with that. Well, pike and shot is kind of like Victorian times, a transition era from old age to new age, and that's interesting to me. Yeah, it's a cool transition period. That's why I was saying I actually do like it from the perspective of going from medieval combat into pike and shot as a transition, the way Medieval 2 did it. But I wouldn't like it if it was just that on its own. It's less interesting to me if it's not transitioning. Transitioning out of it isn't that interesting to me, though, but that's also because I just worked on a big 1700s game, and now I'm a bit burnt out of that period. That time period. This is map 15, yeah. American Civil War is uninteresting for Europe. Napoleon comes out for tactical, for Grand Tactician, and medieval from CA, so what else is available? See ya, Kaiser. I think, Dave, why does the Napoleonic Wars encompasses Europe and North America, right? Because you have the War of 1812 simultaneous to the Napoleonic Wars. So there's something for the Americans to be interested in and for the Europeans. The Middle Ages is mostly for the Europeans. Why is the American Civil War just about America? What about the rest of Europe during the American Civil War? That's what my first game was about, actually. Because you've got... Oh, I closed out my stream. I mean, I'm still streaming, but I closed out my chat. Sorry, one sec. I'll reopen it. I find the Victorian era warfare in Europe pretty compelling as well as the American ones that were simultaneous. That's what my whole first game was about. With the Franco-Prussian War and the Wars of Italian Independence and the American Civil War and the Austro-Prussian War and the Schleswig War and the Mexican Intervention War and the Boshin War and the Taiping Rebellion. I could name like a million, and the Sepoy Revolt and the January Uprising. There's so many conflicts all happening, so... yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to revisit. I was mentioning earlier in the stream, it'd be interesting to revisit that period and do it justice. And I think that would make it stand out from the other games that are being made right now. So. Yeah. I think I'll wrap up here. We've done a long enough stream. We talked about game ideas. We talked about life. We talked about map editor and history and stuff. So, but this is a good layout. I'm good. I'm happy to build on this, and then we'll have a new map in the game. So this one's a little more hilly. Would you still recommend Fire Maneuver for someone who's never played it? I don't know, Riley. Not really. I think the game's really only fun in multiplayer. So I'd only really get it if you have a person to play with, from my opinion. If you have no friend who would play it with you, I actually probably wouldn't buy it. And I'm saying that as a person who made it. But I think on multiplayer, it's fun to play with a friend. That's where I had the most fun with it. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Sorry things got a bit personal. I don't think they got any more personal than I usually. I always sometimes go off and just start talking about random shit. So I don't think it's unusual, but Maybe it got more personal than it usually does, but I don't know. There's nothing controversial. No one insulted each other, and I never said anything mean or anything like that. So I don't think it was anything bad. But yeah, I think it's a good time to debrief because I've never done a stream since this is the first stream of the year, and I'm just debriefing a little bit of how things feel now that the game's done. We're kind of in this new space. We can kind of go anywhere. So yeah, it is normal for these streams. I do this shit all the time, so I don't know. My team was freaking out. They're like, Griffin, you're being way too personal. And I don't know. I do this all the time. I don't really care. I don't think I offended anybody or anything, so I think it's fine. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I will head out, and I will don't forget new doctrines and traits. Yeah, I'm doing those next. I've got those up on my thing. It's easier for me to do this on my own because I can sit there and read, and I'm not trying to entertain and talk at the same time and read the chat. It's kind of hard to go through a thread and start putting out all the content while I'm doing that at the same time. So, yeah. All right, see you guys.